And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We are here on Late Night Q&A with ZodWriter. This is episode 30. I'm so excited because I've got my special guest from TheBatChannel, a good friend of mine. We've gotten to know each other pretty well. I'm so excited to have Trey Austin here on the show with me tonight. This is exciting for me. I love these late night Q&As. Welcome, Trey. It's so good to see you, brother.
Thank you so much, dude. I'm glad to finally be here with you again. It's Zod. Like, seriously, you know I love you, man. Like, I've always really enjoyed your shows.
I have to tell you something that really, really touched my heart and got me so excited. Like, a lot of the stuff, like, you put out so much great content on a regular basis. And when me and Jeffrey Warfield were on your live stream for the boring fandom, and we were all disappointed, and we had such a great time because I felt like we were all just a bunch of friends hanging out online. And in this day and age, it's crazy because we're living in a time period where most of your friends and family are online now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you really can't, it's not really that, it's not like, I remember there was a time when you would say, oh, I met this person online, and being online, there used to be like a negative stigma attached to it. You remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
And now it's to a point where, like, meeting somebody online is not only the norm, but you've made a lot of friends, you've made a lot of connections. You've literally got this family network where you've pretty much like connected. It's amazing how much we are able to be connected digitally to people, and I love it so much. But the thing about you, and the thing that really drew me to you, was when Jeffrey and I gave our opinions about the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, and him and I kind of agreed, because we're not really crazy about Robert Pattinson. We're not really sold on the movie. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that, in spite of the fact that you disagree, you're more excited for it than we are, but you defended us in the comments section of your video when people were basically attacking myself and Jeffrey for not really being excited for the movie.
Yeah, it's part of the deal with social media, and just kind of people feel comfortable to say rude, awful things to each other because they're not having to say it to your face.
Yeah. You had one particular person that on there that wanted to go back and forth with me, and then when I responded and defended myself, the person blocked me. And I thought, well, it's funny because I've always said that it's okay. It's always okay to disagree, but it's never okay to be disrespectful. So I don't understand why me and this person couldn't just agree to disagree and move on, because I'm sure we agree on other stuff. But my problem was the person was so, definitively like negative towards my personal viewpoint that I couldn't, like, anything that I said was just, they made it a point to say something like, I wouldn't watch ZodWriter if I was being paid to watch ZodWriter. And it's like, listen, I'm like, just because you disagree with me about a Batman movie doesn't make me a bad person, and doesn't mean that we can't find some common ground and agree on other things. So that's one of the major topics I wanted to talk to you about tonight, because I really feel nothing but love for you, man, because you're one of those people that you're open to other opinions, and you want to hear what other people have to say. It's like you and I will be great friends, but we don't always have to agree on everything. Yeah. But I'm not going to take it personally because you disagree with me about a Batman movie. That's your personal taste, and taste in film is subjective.
Absolutely.
You're allowed to like and dislike what it's all personal. So that's the thing I'll never understand about people. Like, why take it so personally? Just because I have a YouTube channel and I have a platform doesn't make my opinion any more valid or invalid than yours. Same with you, Trey. You have a YouTube channel. It doesn't mean that your opinion is greater or lesser than mine. It just means that you have a viewpoint. Everybody has one. So I've never really been able to understand why people get at each other's throats over opinions about movies. I can't understand it. It's like, I'm so thankful just the fact that we're able to have these kinds of discords and conversations. And when I was in film school, I used to argue with classmates all the time. We would argue about films constantly. I was a big fan of Asian cinema. One of my favorite directors is John Woo, and he makes a lot of action oriented Chinese gangster movies. Okay. And he makes a lot of real stylistic cinema. I would get into so many different arguments with people about John Woo and about different directors and a lot of young up and coming people who don't like Martin Scorsese and don't like some of the directors that I deem to be top filmmakers. And and it's like, in this day and age, it's like I've gotten to a point where it's like I can't even have a discussion, an online discussion about film with people without people taking it personally and making it seem like I'm going at them, singling them out. I think one of the biggest the big thing was when I said the person in your chat took issue with the fact that I said something along the lines of the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, like appealing to psychos. Like he took me out of context. I wasn't trying to say that just because you like the movie or you're excited about the movie, you must be a psycho. I was trying to say that, these kinds of films and the kind of violence level and the kind of anger level that this Batman is displaying that we're seeing on screen is appealing to psychos. I'm not saying that just because you love Batman that no, you're a psycho, you shouldn't watch this movie. And it got taken out of context. And I think a lot of it, and that's the thing, it's like you can take anything anybody says out of context and skew it any way you want and make it and that's cool. I mean, but at the end of the day, I feel like people that do that are doing themselves a disservice because you're missing out on a chance to make a friend or to have discourse about other films that you might even find you agree with a person about. So that's what I don't understand. And for the life of me, I don't know the name of the person in your chat who disagreed with me because I can't pronounce their name. I don't know. They have different characters. I don't know what their name is. But I just know that this person was really, really vehemently angry at me and was taking my comments personally. And I was kind of bothered by that because I don't go after anybody personally. Like I said, I'm all for everybody liking what they like. So for me, it's not like that. I can only speak about how I feel about a movie. I can't speak it for everybody else. So I don't feel like it's my place to tell you what you can like and what you can't like. And I think that's something that's definitely important to, be straightened out. I want people to understand. I may be very opinionated about how I feel about films, but I'm not somebody that's going to personally attack somebody else because they have a differing view than I do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of, unfortunately, it mirrors our society nowadays. Everything is so complicated and everything is controversial. People, I think, unfortunately, because of that, of our world today, everything's an argument. Everything is who versus who, and movies in a way are an escape for people. So I think the issue has now kind of bled into movies where people can't even have like a reasonable discussion with each other about films because it's their escape. So they want people to enjoy it with them and share their enjoyment for something that if they hear someone say, oh, this was trash, or this sucked for me, all of a sudden it's like you're attacking something that means something personal to them because it is their escape. It is their way of kind of winding down from the world. And then all of a sudden, when you hear someone say, oh, the Batman sucks, it's like, what? No, like, how dare you? So I mean, it's the unfortunate thing. I do know who you're talking about, and they're actually a very loyal subscriber to my channel, and he's actually a really great guy. He does have troll tendencies. He likes to make a joke out of a lot of things, and I think he just took some things out of context, like you were saying. But I think that just goes to like people just, it's very personal. Everything is very, and in a way that's a great thing, right? Because like with Zack Snyder, I was listening to an interview with him recently where he was just talking about when you make these superhero characters of the modern times and you really give it that mythological story that you can connect to and make it mean something personal for you, that's a great problem to have, because whether you like it or dislike it, it still means something to you. So every person has something they like, they don't like. I think some of the issue is nowadays is people feel like if you don't agree with them, you're against them, rather than, well, maybe it's just not their cup of tea, and people aren't very accepting of that for some reason. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like I say, I keep thinking, it's like, just because I disagree with you, whatever your name is, about the Batman movie, doesn't mean that I'm gonna disagree with you on everything. There might be some other stuff that's more important than this Batman movie that I might very well agree with you on. So people need to be careful when it comes to just blanketly cutting people off simply because they disagree about one particular subject. Doesn't make any sense. I'm not, again, I don't really, like I don't know this person. And again, it sounds like he's somebody that like you mentioned, is somebody that's been a loyal subscriber to you and all that. And I definitely don't want to, antagonize or irritate your subscribers and people and that's why I was so, it was so heartfelt to me when you stuck up for me and Jeffrey. And shout out to Bat Dan as well, Dan 530, who was on that panel with us, and he's another one. And my thing is that when you are just a group of friends just trying to express yourself about how you feel about something, it's not that you're setting off to irritate other people or to upset other people. And I think it's like you've said, society has gotten to a point where it's all an argument now. And that's so unfortunate. And it's like Corey says, oh my God, Corey, what's up, brother? You're awesome.
Super bro,
he says,
Corey.
only a Sith deals in absolutes. And I couldn't agree more. It's ridiculous. There should be no absolutes, because you never know whose hand you might be turning away in friendship based on having an argument over a Batman movie. Here's the thing. I always look at it like this. It's better to have friends than it is to have enemies. I don't want to make enemies. I don't want enemies. I know I have haters. I know I have people who don't like me for whatever reason, and I accept that because my viewpoints are controversial, and I make no bones about the fact that if I say something, I'm going to say it passionately, and I'm going to say it theatrically, and I'm going to say it how I feel. It's not going to be, and it's not because I'm trying to offend you. It's because it's just how I feel. So, I just think it's kind of crazy to me because this like just sums it up completely. Only a Sith deals in absolutes because there is no reason for that. You can always find common ground. I have grown up to think that you can pretty much find common ground unless the person is a complete scumbag, just complete dirtbag criminal. You can find common ground with just about anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, you know, that's kind of the theme nowadays, right? It's so many people when it's like they're looking for an argument because it's really the only way we can have a conversation with each other nowadays. Almost, it's like we've forgotten how to be cordial or respectful about someone's opinion. I mean, to the point
What's
where it's
up,
like,
Jason? Good to see you.
Jason, you know, like on YouTube, when someone does a review and it's like, okay, I did not like this movie, or, you know, I thought this movie was trash. People get mad at you and it's just like, well, you're wrong. And it's like, well, am I not entitled to my opinion? Like, just because I don't say after every sentence when I criticize something, you know, that I have to add in my opinion, like, you're talking about it. Of course, you're saying as if it was your opinion. You know, if you enjoy the
Yeah,
film,
you got to be very, and that's the thing. It's funny because you got to be very, very specific nowadays when you're doing a review. It's so crazy. It's like, in my opinion, Dune was a great movie. However, Warner Brothers chopped it up horribly. If the director's intent was for Dune to be a 6-hour movie, cutting Dune down to 2 hours and 35 minutes is a horrible hatchet job.
You know, now, I think the biggest problem with the Dune movie was the simple fact, I don't even know who wrote the article, but I thought they were spot on, because I actually thought it was a great movie until the very end. Because to me,
they rushed it. They rushed to it. And that's, as a fan of the source material, I have to say that I agree with you. I liked what they were doing, but then they got to a point where they just got on like hyper mode, where they had to get from point A to point Z in 2 hours and 35 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good movie, but like, I want more. I want to see what the director intended, which is why I'm tired of studios coming in and butchering films and then expecting us to be happy with whatever whatever's left, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what Warner Brothers really needed to do in this case was they needed to commit to doing a trilogy, like just signing on. So that way, because it really feels like the way this movie ended, you should be expecting the sequel, part 2, in like 6 months, you know, or less than a year.
A Lord of the Rings type scenario.
Exactly. But now you're having to wait 2 years because they weren't committed to it yet. They wanted to see what it was going to do in the box office first. And sometimes I feel like it kind of goes both ways, right? Like, you kind of look at it from the studio's point of view and like, yeah, they need to make money. It's not always about the story, which yes, it should be, but they're a business. They need to make money. And for something like Dune, yeah, I could see how that was a bit of a risky situation.
I look at it like this. If you're going to make Dune and you're going to be like that and you have that mentality where it's not really about the story, don't make the movie, because then you have another David Lynch situation on your hands. And we all know what happened with David Lynch. David Lynch was so upset, he took his name off the movie and they put Alan Smithy's name on the movie. Listen, I'm totally happy that the movie is being well received in a lot of areas. And like I said, I don't have anything against the Dune that we got. I just feel that it's truncated and chopped up into little pieces, and you cannot do a movie like Dune like that. You have to provide the epic scope. You have to provide for what the source material calls for. Look at what happened with Lord of the Rings. We're talking, the theatrical cuts were great.
Yeah.
But what's the reality? The reality is we actually got what Peter Jackson intended for those movies later on.
Yeah.
But which was basically the extended cuts, which were extreme and were wonderful. And then we got the same thing for The Hobbit. Why? Why did that happen? Because Lord of the Rings is a super popular franchise and Warner Brothers was behind it. and knew that they could sell it, and they didn't have a problem with the Fellowship of the Rings being a 3-hour movie, but they put that in theaters.
Yeah.
I mean,
can you imagine that? Like, it's really so silly that Warner Brothers has such an issue with runtime. And I get it. The idea is if the runtime is shorter, more showings throughout the day, more people can see the movie. But at the same time, it's like, it's not so much more showings that you need. You need the enthusiasm in a movie done right to where people see that movie and they leave the theater and tell their friends about it. And have that. If the movie is doing well nowadays, if the movie doesn't do well after 2 weeks, theaters take it right out, or they put it on 3 showings a day. So a 3-hour long movie, The Lord of the Rings, like you said, no one gave a damn that it was 3 hours long. They went in, they saw a great movie, and they left the theaters telling all their friends.
Exactly. And nobody complained. Nobody said, oh, this movie's too long. Listen, I remember that I had taken my fiance at the time to go see Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings. And she didn't know nothing about those movies.
Oh, really?
But by the end about Lord of the Rings, but by the end of that movie, she was excited and couldn't wait for the next one. And this is a woman who doesn't like to sit in movie theaters for lengthy periods of time. This is somebody that if a movie goes for longer than 2 hours, she's getting antsy. She wants to get up and get popcorn or whatever. We have a super chat from my brother, Vega. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat, brother. He says, my brother Zod, Dune was dope, but when it got cut off at the end, it was a bit off for me. I feel either a bit more minutes would have been good or a little less. Yeah. I don't understand. Again, like Trey was saying, it's like once they got to the end, it was like it was rushed and it fell off. It really did. And like I said, I'm not saying that Dune was a bad movie by any means. I think that the theatrical cut that we got was decent, but it was truncated. And if you're going to truncate something like Dune, you better be prepared to release that full director's cut later on when it comes out on video. I don't mind if you want to do your initial theatrical cut that's going to be shorter for butts in the seats and all that. I'm fine with that. But when you put it on video, it's almost like Dune should have been, and I don't know, Dune should have actually been, if you ask me, almost done like a movie, like a mini series. Agreed. It should have been more. They should have allowed the same director to do it. But the thing is, Dennis, the story for Dune needs time to breathe. Yeah. And it's long form storytelling. So if you're going to do long form storytelling like Zack Snyder's Justice League, putting it on a streaming service for people to consume it, and the form. It probably would have been a great move for HBO Max. Yeah. To have a visionary director like that telling the story of Dune as one long movie, but in parts on HBO Max would have been fantastic. Now, honestly, they wouldn't have got the theatrical. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for that theatrical nugget. And that's the reason why they don't want to do that. But for a story like Dune, okay, that's what you need to do because you're telling that story. You're telling a story that, in all honesty, can go 21 hours, I think, is for the first book. If you want to listen to the audio book of the first Dune, you're looking at 21 hours. That's a lot of material that was truncated and cut down to 2 hours and 35 minutes. So, Vega, I want to give you something for your super chat here, bro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you and everybody here who may be here for the first time. If you're here on my channel for the first time and you're checking out Late Night Q&A for the first time, I want to say hello and I want to ask you to please like and subscribe if you can. That would help me out a great deal. And I'm going to show you an exclusive clip here from Matt Reeves, the Batman. We're going to give you an exclusive clip from the movie that Warner Brothers schlepped to me not too long ago. I do apologize for the graphic violence and the language you are going to hear ahead of time. But here it is.
What's up, Hey, what's up? What's up? We should just go blast them motherfuckers. Hey, come on, let's go blast that fool. Oh, yeah, do some shit. That's the one doing that shit. Oh, relax. Man, that shit just blast the rest of stupid. On the stadium side, we gotta blast that fool, man.
Freeze. Don't even think about moving. Turn that fucking noise off. I should shoot every last one of you just based on the music you listen to.
Hey, check this clown out. Halloween until October. Didn't we kill his chinga mine already?
Now, I'm not here to trick-or-treat, but I'm definitely here to turn you fucking douchebags into permanent ghosts. Get on your knees and interlock your fingers behind your head. You bitches get your ass in that room, and I swear to God, if I see a sliver of light from that door jam, I'm gonna have each and every one of you suited for a white sheet with black holes for eyes, you feel me?
Fucking killed you, dog. I left you for dead in the alley that night. You ain't even fucking here. You're a ghost, vato.
You killed the man, not the cause. You thought you were pretty badass out there destroying people's lives, didn't you? Well, I'm here to settle the score for every last person you victimized in this city.
You know who you're fucking with, you stupid motherfucker?
Yeah, I know who I'm fucking with. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, and dead is evil Knievel.
No, motherfucker, you know what? You're fucking with pure evil. We got our homies on a beer run. They'll be back any second, dog. You know what? Regardless, you ain't getting out of here alive. You're done, that's it.
That may be true, but I'll live long enough to piss on your fucking grave. Judge not, that I not be judged. Though I walk in the shadow of darkness, my shield is my vengeance, my armor is my hatred. My weapon is my Father, His Son, and her Holy Ghost. This is a message from this city. Every Mog has its day. Vatos.
Matt Reeves, the Batman, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about one of the darkest versions of Batman we are ever going to get to see on film. I want to once again thank the good folks over at the WB for providing me with that clip for super chats. I appreciate it. I'm a little after seeing, every time I see that clip, Trey, I get a little more excited for
You're
Robert
starting
Pattinson
to become a
as Batman.
Pattinson fan.
I'm starting to become a fan because I think he definitely has the acting chops. And when you see him literally literally blow people away, you know that this Batman is not playing. And that dialogue was Oscar worthy.
It's like
a my God.
Fiction, and I will strike down those who attempt to.
Okay, and Effie says here, I don't like when people call movie trash, though. I mean, I like valid criticism of a movie, but to call it trash with no proper explanation is what I don't like. I understand that point. But what you have to understand is that some people, when they express themselves and they see a movie and they call it trash, that's how they feel. If you feel when you watch a movie, if you feel, my God, that was trash, okay, well, that's your feelings and you're just expressing yourself. So I don't really, that doesn't really bother me because if I like the movie is still available for me to watch. I don't care whether, you think it's trash, Trey thinks it's trash. If I like the movie, I'm going to watch it, and I don't really care what anybody else thinks. And that is the hilarious part of all this division when it comes to these movies. The hilarity is, listen, I've got a lot of people out there that liked the movie Birds of Prey, directed by Kathy Yen. I didn't like Birds of Prey, but I will tell you this. I will defend Kathy Yan's right to make Birds of Prey. I believe she has every right to put her vision out there and make her movie. Whether I agree with the content or not is irrelevant. I may not like it, but I'm not going to crap on people who did, and I'm not gonna say that you're trash because you liked a movie that I didn't like. All I'm going to say was it wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't like it. I thought it was trash. But I have nothing against the director. I have nothing against the actors and people involved, and it takes a lot to make a movie. I don't, just because a movie's not my cup of tea, doesn't mean that I'm gonna, that I really care, one way or the other. I just think that people have to take a step back and really need to focus on what's important. Don't people realize that for all the fighting and arguing people do on social media, particularly on Twitter, when it comes to these movies, think of all the better, more constructive things you could be doing. I just that's one of the things. That's why I've kind of like scaled back on Twitter. I don't go on Twitter that much anymore because it's so negative. It's such a negative place. It breeds negativity. So ultimately, you get on there and you get swept up in the negativity, even if you're going on there and your intent is to be positive. But it's hard because, like, for me, like when I watched Dune, I couldn't help but tweet out negatively because I felt the movie was so truncated and so cut up. Even though I liked the movie and I didn't fault the director himself, I was irritated with the studio because I know the studio could have allowed this movie to get the Lord of the Rings treatment. Could have given us a longer movie and then given us a director's cut. Now, don't get me wrong. Allegedly, the director's cut for Dune is 6 hours. I don't expect them to put a 6-hour movie in theaters, okay? But you could have at least given them half. You could have at least let them do a 3-hour cut theatrically, and then on home video release the 6-hour cut. And I truly believe that 6-hour cut deserves to be seen because that's going to include a lot of the material. You got a lot of critics talking about Dune, talking about, oh, it has pacing issues. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's this. Yeah, because the studio mandated. You cut, this movie was 2.5 hours. You cut out how many hours out of a 6-hour movie, and you tell me how choppy and truncated it's going to feel. It's just like what they did with Zack Snyder with Justice League and BVS, but we're not going to get into that today. All I'm saying is, they could have had some confidence. They have a good director. They could have had confidence and said, hey, we'll let you do a 3-hour cut of this movie because people that love Dune want to see Dune. They don't want to see a cheap knockoff, truncated, version that's made for the masses. They want to see a faithful adaptation. And I believe that was the intent. Because like you, Trey, up to a certain point, I thought that, this is what they're doing. The intent here is to give us a good Dune movie.
Yeah.
So,
To me, with Dune, it was just the fact that clearly with them saying Dune Part 1 and then not like already greenlighting a sequel, it just shows that they lacked confidence again. In the vision of the director,
the director that they hired, the visionary director that did Blade Runner, 2030. What is it? 2039, 2049,
2039,
2039.
Yeah.
Listen, you hire a visionary director for a reason. You want a director that is thinking in terms of epicness, a director that's thinking in terms of scope. This is what you want. You want someone that is going to give you the best possible product that you are going to enjoy, on a level. And I don't understand. So I don't understand why, if you got to get a director who's obviously a fan of the source material, you have, and like you can't say Peter Jackson wasn't a fan of Lord of the Rings. You can't say Zack Snyder isn't a fan of DC characters. or David Ayer doesn't understand the Suicide Squad. I mean, you have all of these, you get these visionary directors for a reason. If you're not going to let visionary directors be visionary directors, then just let the producers direct the movie. If you just want somebody behind the camera that's just going to shoot anything, let them do that. Let them follow your script to the letter. Just put out your cookie cutter movies and be done with it. Don't hire visionaries to come out there and try to do their best and then cut the hell out of their movies. That's the part I've never been able to understand about how, in particular, Warner Brothers seems to work things.
It's very unfortunate because they used to be known for being director driven, letting their directors do their thing and, accepting the products that they get. And once again, it's like, I understand there's a certain level of like, okay, they need to make money to be able to continue to make great movies. At the same time, though, like if you don't trust the person you hired, then why did you hire them?
Right. Just tell them from the get-go. Look, this movie cannot be over 2 hours. It has to be 2 hours with credits. But we want you to do Dune. Can you do it in 2 hours? And Dennis can look at them and say, no, I can't do it in 2 hours. Please hire someone else. That's how I would want. I think the studios should start being when they hire these directors. Let them know up front that, hey, we need it done in this amount of time. This has to be the runtime. If you can't give us that, then we need to find somebody who can give us that. If that's their mentality, because I feel like how the heck can a director's cut of a 2.5 hour movie be 6 hours? We're not talking about a work print. We're talking about a director's cut. So if a director's cut is 6 hours, that means that he went wholeheartedly into this movie, opting to put as much of the source material from the first book as possible into this movie. They should have made it 3 hours. I agree. And Corey says, do they fix their mistakes in Dune 2 or do they rush again? I don't know. I don't expect them to do anything different in Dune 2. By now, the director knows what's up. He's gonna have to make it 2.5 hours again. And then his director's cut can be whatever he wants it to be.
And who's to say that he didn't film, like maybe part of those 6 hours were things he has planned to use in the future, kind of like what they did with was it I'm totally spacing the movie right now, but there was a movie where they had clear idea that they were going to use some of the footage in the sequel that they had filmed in the first movie. It might have been a Lord of the Rings film, now thinking about it.
Oh, yeah, well, when you think about Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson filmed so much material for those movies, the Hobbits and all that stuff. I remember there were rumors back when the Lord of the Rings trilogy was going on in theaters. There was rumors back then that he had already filmed a lot of Hobbit material because he wanted he had foreseen the possibility that they would do the Hobbit afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And this was back, I think, when Fellowship of the Rings was still in theaters. So I don't understand. I just don't understand the mentality with Warner Brothers in particular, especially because they're putting it on HBO Max anyway. That's the kick in the knees for me. You're putting it on a streaming service day and date as theatrically. So obviously you're expecting the theatrical numbers to not quite be up to snuff. So at that point, why not do the 3 hour cut of it so that you can please the fans, and then those are the people that will go see it in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the diehards. They're like, oh, Dune is 3 hours and 58 minutes. I'm going to the movie theater to watch it because I know that's going to be as close to the source material as theatrically possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they could have just went all out and let him do his 6-hour director's cut, his 6-hour first cut, and put an intermission between it. Break it up into 2 parts and put like an intermission like they did back in the old days, like with 7 Samurai and 10 Commandments and all those classic movies. Remember 10 Commandments? 10 Commandments had an intermission with like music, and you could get up and go get popcorn and do all the things you wanted to do while that intermission played for people. And you could intermission back in the olden days before we were born was a big part of movie theaters. It was a big part of the movie going experience. You would have a super long epic movie, a lot, maybe like a biblical movie or something. And you basically get up and you'd go and you'd take that time to go to concessions and to get your whatever and go back to, my parents used to tell me stories about those kinds of movie experiences. Those used to be epic movie experiences, and they didn't think nothing of the movies being long. And they always, and even if the movies weren't super long, they would have double features. So you would see one movie and then you'd get an intermission and you'd see another movie. I mean, you'd literally spend the whole day into the evening, from morning into the evening at the movie theater. It was a total day out experience.
Yeah.
So what's the problem with this day and age? The problem with this day and age is people are too busy. Nobody has time. Everybody's glued to their cell phones. Nobody wants to sit in a movie theater for that lengthy period of time because they've got other things to do. So get the people in, get the people out, get your money.
Yeah, it's definitely a fast-paced market now.
Right. And unfortunately the storytelling suffers. And Batdan 530 wants to know, did you guys see it in theaters? I didn't. I saw it on HBO Max.
I saw it in theaters in a Dolby theater. Like, to me, a film like that is going to be just so a massive experience, like sitting in a Dolby theater and feeling the rumble of the seat. And let me tell you something, like seeing it in a Dolby theater was like perfect because the sound quality, the music from Hans Zimmer, the sound effects that they did for that film, it should be.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer did an excellent score.
I thought it was pretty good. I was a little disappointed in some areas of his composition because, I mean, one thing I don't know if you know about me, Zod, is like that's like my career goal is to be a music composer for film.
Yeah, okay.
So
you're like me. You're an audio guy.
Oh, hell yeah.
I love audio. I love audio so much. Yeah.
For me, part of the experience of a movie, of where my enjoyment comes, if the score sucks of a movie, then that's gonna severely hurt.
I've got digital theater headphones.
Yeah.
That I have connected to my TV. I have a 55-inch TV, and I have digital theater headphones, so that you get the Adobe, you get the Atmos, you get all the, and it's all in the headphones. You get there's all the speakers, and it's all configured a certain way, so you get that theatrical experience sitting on the couch. And that, to me, being an audio guy, is what I was all about. I'm like, when I want to watch a movie like that, and that's how I watched, Dune. I had my headphones on, so I got to hear all the sounds and the rumbling and all that you were talking about. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a great experience if you can have some sort of theatrical experience, regardless of whether you're watching it at home or you're watching it in the theater. Because nowadays, the best way to experience a movie at home is emulating the theater as best as possible.
Exactly.
So that's pretty much my take on that as far as that goes. And Vega says, time for the Batman exclusive. Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you again for the super chat, Vega. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the exclusive from the Batman movie, because that to me is a selling point for me. I know that happens later on in the movie, but here's the thing about it that I love so much: the scene in the hallway where he's walking up to the apartment, where you see the red, just like in all the trailers, the red, special, accentuation on the red. And that to me is really big. Robert Pattinson. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope. And here for the Bat Channel, just subbed to Zod. Thank you, Restore the Snyderverse guy. I really appreciate the sub. Thank you so much. That helps out a lot, you guys. I love the fact that you guys are and you know, I love Trey. I love the Bat Channel. That's a channel. You guys, again, you guys do one of the greatest channels on YouTube. And so I guess the next thing I want to ask you, Trey, is how did you get started with the Bat Channel? What was the impetus that birthed the signal in the sky that said to you, Trey, that you have to create the Bat Channel? What was it for you, man?
Well, great question. A lot of people have always told me, like, Trey, you need to start a YouTube channel. You need to start a YouTube channel. And I was just always like, no, like I have no interest in doing YouTube. And finally, there kind of came a time where, you know, with COVID, a lot of companies started furloughing their people. That happened to my company with me. And it was like, okay, I got all this time on my hands. What am I going to do? And my dad, who used to do TV and production, all that sort of thing, and he was just like, well, maybe now's the time for you to try YouTube. And at the time, I was always, I've been part of the Snyder community for, to release the Snyder Cut since January 2018, ever since I heard about that group that went to Warner Brothers in cosplay and had that giant banner that said release the Snyder Cut. And I was like, what are these guys talking about? And did my research. And ever since, I was kind of like what I always say, the ground trooper, the soldier, just running, doing hashtag release the Snyder Cut. And it was really guys like Fatal J, Chris Wan with the Ping Pong Flick Show, and a few other guys, eventually Sill, who I was like, man, I think I can do this. Like, I think I can do a YouTube channel and become a bigger voice in this community that's doing wonderful work for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So it literally just sat down with my dad, who has done this kind of stuff before, and was like, okay, here's my idea. I want to do a play off of the famous Adam West series. Don't forget to tune in weekly, same bat time, same bat channel. And I was like, let's create a channel literally just called the Bat Channel, and here we are, a year later, and it's been a wonderful experience. It's really helped me kind of get out of my shell a little more, because I used to be a very social person, but like last few years, when you work customer service for since I worked customer service in high school, to help pay for like band trips that, my school was going on. And so like customer service made me hate people to the point where I was like, yeah, I don't like.
I can agree with you there about customer service. I did a customer service job for many years, where I was dealing with people over the phone, and it was really rough in a lot of ways. And I got another $1.99 super chat here from one of my best friends on YouTube, Belle Reeve. Thank you so much, Belle. You're awesome. Belle is another great DC YouTuber. She is always putting out the best stuff about DC. She's always doing really great streams. I absolutely love Belle. She's wonderful. This is a $1.99 super chat, so I'm gonna have to give you something for the super chat here. And so I think what we'll play here for you, since we just played the exclusive clip, I'll go ahead and play the video where I got exposed. Oh, isn't that beautiful? All it shows is that my channel grew. That's all it showed.
Exploded, man.
It didn't really, it didn't really show anything. It didn't really expose anything. It just showed that my channel grew. And if you actually look at the metrics on my channel, it literally shows like a 2-month progression of how I got from where I was to where I am now. So yeah, that was a YouTube channel that was up for a day, less than 24 hours. They called themselves You Suck, and that was the only video on the channel allegedly exposing me. So I use that video for super chats now because I think it's hilarious.
Why even waste the time?
It made me feel so good. It made me feel so good, Trey. It made me feel like, God, you hate me that much that you created a YouTube channel with that video. And by the time it got taken down, they had all but 2 subscribers. So I still don't really know who it was. I kind of have my suspicions and some ideas, but nothing else ever came of it. So I just let it go. But I used the video. I used the video as, for promotion for me because I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious.
Well, that's how you know you made it, Zod. When you get a troll channel that just their goal is to try to hurt your channel,
try to hurt my channel, and then the channel gets taken down for violating YouTube's guidelines. So actually, it didn't hurt me at all. If anything, it's one of the most hilarious videos I've ever seen. And not only that piano music is something else. I mean, you talk about a clown video. That's exactly what it was. It was a clown video. So thank you again, Belle Reeve, for the $1.99 super chat. You are wonderful. And for those who missed it, I had Belle Reeve on Late Night Q&A with ZodWriter last week. She was my guest, and it was a wonderful chat. So if you get a chance, definitely check that out. I had a little technical problem where my computer froze up on me, and Belle had to temporarily they had to run the show until I could reboot my computer and come back. So she's definitely awesome. And I'm always going to be grateful to Belle because I go on her streams, and there was a time where there was some controversy and some stuff going on over some stuff that I said. And like you, and like the way you defended me and Jeffrey, she defended me when everybody else was talking all types of smack. Belle Reeve defended me, and I took that to heart too. And I've always had Belle's back, and will always defend Belle too because she's just a great person, and it's one of those things where you learn during all of this, you learn who your friends are, you learn where you stand with a lot of people, and it's like I've learned that the hard way over the last year and a half, trying to build a YouTube channel because of how I started off of, PSN Radio, which was an internet radio network, and, going from PSN Radio to becoming, a YouTuber. And it's hard. It's a lot of work, as you know, and it's not something that you can easily do and you can easily transition into. So you do the best you can, and you just try to be as honest as you can. And that's how I look at it. That's another reason why I'm so drawn to you too, Trey, because the Channel is another really honest YouTube channel. I mean, you say it like how you feel about it. You tell it how it is. And nobody can ever fault you for being honest.
Yeah. I mean, that was always a very important thing to me. You get some people who I think, and hopefully, at least I don't ever plan to get to this way, but I've heard stories of like you become a film critic, and stuff like that. And then finally that studio reaches out to you and says, hey, we'll give you an exclusive if you say, something nice about us. And, so people will say like, oh, that film was actually so good. And then you see the film and it's like, what? What are you talking about? That wasn't great. And obviously it's subjective, but to me, it's better to be honest. So if something's bothering you, if something's bugging you about it, then say it, or if something is great and this is why you think it's great, then talk about it. And I think people can always figure out who's being disingenuous and who's being fake and who's being real. And that was always important to me from day one of our show, is being real. Because I remember when I first started the channel, it was like, oh man, like, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to, like, I need to talk a certain way to not offend anyone. And then you kind of realize it's like, you know how exhausting it is to kind of think about how to say something without people, you know, getting triggered. Nowadays, everyone
this is where I always say, anything that we say, anything that you say has potential to offend somebody at any given time. I say that every day because you know what? It's absolutely true. And if all you do is worry about offending people, you'll never make another video.
Exactly. Yeah. And you say screw it. Like, I'm just gonna be me.
It's like, I'm just gonna be who I am, and if people like me, that's great. If they don't, that's fine too. There's other content to watch.
Exactly.
And Dadpool, this is your dad, right? Dadpool.
Yeah,
Dadpool says production value also means everything. It used to cost a lot of money to produce the kinds of shows you two are doing. Yeah. You can now produce a great show, you know, without it really costing you money, but it's still something that's very time consuming. It's still something that you have to, you know, put a lot of effort into, and you have to, you know, have material. You have to have things to talk about. You can't just come on here and not have any direction whatsoever. You have to know exactly what you're going to do. Trevor H says here, Dadpool in the house. And this Restore the Snyderverse says at Dadpool. And Dadpool says, never sell your open, honest, transparent, and personal investment. That's great advice.
Yeah, no, Dadpool and I had many conversations where, and honestly, it was actually about Battinson. Because in my very first trailer reaction to the Batman, I liked the trailer, you know, with that something in the way. I loved the first teaser trailer that they had at First DC Fandom, but the thing that bugged me about Battinson was the suit and the cowl. I hated the suit and cowl, and I still have issues with it. Is it growing on me? Yeah, but I mean,
it's not growing on me.
Yeah,
it looks terrible.
Like, you know, I'm not feeling it. Still.
I agree with you so much. I agree with you wholeheartedly about the cowl and the suit. I hate it so much. It doesn't look like Batman to me.
Mm-hmm. And I said that in my trailer reaction. I was like, you know, I'm not feeling it. And people attacked me like, I just crucified Batman or something.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. That's what gets back to our original topic, which is everybody takes these comments about these movies so personally. Yeah. And then they come at you, they come at me, they come at Jeffrey, they come at Dan, they come at Bell, they come at all of us because... Like I don't understand that. You can have a difference of opinion. Yeah. It's not a big deal. Like I don't understand. Like okay, I'll say it. I hate the fact that this movie exists, The Batman with Robert Pattinson. Yeah, I don't want this movie to be here at all. But the fact that it's here means that you have to accept it for what it is.
Yeah,
and give it its chance. If it's not good, you have every right to talk about how much you didn't like it because you're speaking from your perspective.
Yeah.
But it's not fair to attack other people who have a different viewpoint and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So when I say that I don't think this movie is going to be for me, it doesn't look like it's my cup of tea.
Yeah,
I don't expect to have 10 people ganging up on me on Twitter because I said it's not my cup of tea and I don't think I'm going to like it. But that's exactly what happens. They come at you like you're the scum of the earth and you're the lowest form of human life because you're not feeling this movie. But yet they're all a bunch of bandwagoners who just jumped on it because they saw a trailer. They're not real cinema fans. And that's my problem. If you're like that, where you can just jump on a trailer and now you're ride or die defending something just off of a trailer? Because what happens if you see the movie and you don't like the movie? Then don't you look like a hypocrite because you just attacked me for not liking the trailer and saying it's probably not going to be my cup of tea? You're attacking Trey because Trey says he didn't like the suit or he doesn't like the cowl. I mean, what happens if you don't like the movie? What happens if it's a bad movie? Now you're a hypocrite. Now you're somebody who spent all that time defending something that you didn't like, and you got to take that kind of stuff into consideration. And that's another thing, Trey. I saw that happen with the Suicide Squad. With James Gunn's Suicide Squad, a lot of people were on the bandwagon for that movie, loving that, thinking, oh, it's going to be great. Give James Gunn a chance. Stop crapping on James Gunn. Stop making it seem like James Gunn isn't going to make a good movie. Then the movie comes out, and then what happens? Crickets. Nobody's saying nothing now. Yeah. Nobody's saying about how great the movie is. You're not hearing people. Yeah, the movie has its fans.
Yeah.
But by and large, the movie didn't do very well. The general consensus that I get overall from DC fans is that it was meh. People really people didn't hate it, but they didn't love it either.
Yeah.
And what other franchise of movies has that same kind of aesthetic? We didn't hate it, but we didn't love it either. Marvel. So James Gunn essentially came over to DC and made like a Marvelized version of Suicide Squad and got the same meh reaction that a lot of the Marvel movies get. They didn't love it. They didn't hate it. It was just okay.
Yeah, I mean, with the Marvel films, and I always say, like, I'm without question a DC fan first. Like, I love my Batman. I love my DC stuff. I'm also a superhero fan. I sit down and I watch Marvel films, and my wife, her family, it kind of the running joke is I'm the DC guy against, my father-in-law who's hardcore Marvel. Sometimes he actually messages me after my, show talking about DC, and he'd be like, oh, DC's done. It's over. Wonder Woman 84 killed it and all that stuff. I mean, it's a fun little.
Now, Wonder Woman 84 is another movie that everybody was on the bandwagon for. Saying you have to support Wonder Woman 84 if you want more of the Snyderverse. Oh, Wonder Woman 84, it's a great movie. It's going to be fantastic. I seen some of the real big names, alleged big names in the release the Snyder Cut movement, touting Wonder Woman 84, changing their Twitter banners to Wonder Woman 84 and jumping on the bandwagon. Oh yeah. Then the movie comes out and what happens?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was the same way. I was originally like, oh yes, I can't. I mean, my wife, Wonder Wife, Sarah, she loves Wonder Woman. And for us, it was like, yes, Wonder Woman's coming out. Hans Zimmer's doing the music again. And Patty Jenkins just said that no one, thinks Justice League is canon. So everyone was kind of thinking, it was kind of the same thing that Jason Momoa was doing with Aquaman, saying, oh yeah, it's right after where he leaves in the Snyder Cut. And finally you see Wonder Woman 1984 and it was like, what the hell is this shit? In my opinion,
right.
Movie.
In my opinion, what the hell was this?
Yeah.
In my opinion, you have to start, even if in my opinion doesn't really make sense to put it there. When you're talking about these movies, you have to put it there.
Right. Yeah.
And Dadpool makes a great comment here once again. Integrity is a lost value. I couldn't agree more. I mean, people have they're just a bunch of sheeple, bandwagoners. They jump on for any movie. And this is what's happening. And this is what I don't like, because this is what's happening with this Pattinson movie. The same type of thing, the same type of fervor that people were defending the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie. They're doing the same thing here with this movie without even seeing the movie, just based off of the trailers alone. And that is a problem for me, because I've never looked at a trailer and said, I'm going to base all my feelings for or against this movie based on the trailer. Now, do I like the Pattinson trailers? No. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to watch the movie and I'm not going to give the movie its chance. Mm-hmm. Because just because I don't like the trailers doesn't mean the movie won't be good. The movie could be good. but I don't expect it to be based on what I've seen. And that to me is kind of, is kind of the crux of it. And even if I was hyped for it, even if I thought it looked great, even if I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, I'm not going to be online, praising it and tweeting about it. I'm still going to wait till I see the movie, because how many movies have been released with great trailers? Then you see the movie and the movie's terrible.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, that was Godzilla versus Kong. Like, I'm a huge Godzilla nut.
I'm a huge Godzilla fan too.
Yeah.
But enough people that I know told me, Zod, Godzilla versus Kong was not a good movie. And my mother, who is like, to me, like one of the world's biggest Godzilla fans.
Really?
My mom and I used to watch the Godzilla movies growing up as a kid, the black and white ones, the Japanese ones. We used to watch them all. And my mom loves Godzilla, and she hated this movie. I knew not to watch it because of that. Because if my mom didn't like it, I knew I wasn't going to like it. It was like 2 hours. They wish they could have got back. But see, I don't like the director, Adam, I think Wingard is his name.
Yeah, Wingard. Yeah.
And he directed a live action movie adaptation to an anime manga that I like called Death Note. And he did it for Netflix, and he totally botched Death Note. Okay. So I wasn't really excited for Godzilla versus Kong just based on that alone. I thought this guy, I don't know what this guy is doing, but I don't really think he's all that great of a director. I think he's highly overrated, and so I still haven't seen Godzilla versus Kong to this day.
Well, I mean, the funny part is, and talk about like difference of opinions. Me as a Godzilla fan, of the MonsterVerse, Godzilla King of the Monsters, the newest one that came out, like, my favorite Godzilla movie of the MonsterVerse, and one of my top 3 Godzilla films of all time, because to me, it was done in such a way. Michael Dougherty, who directed it, you could tell he was a Godzilla fan. You could tell this is a guy who watched hundreds of hours of Godzilla movies and pieced the similar stories that you would see in the older, like, Showa era 1960s Godzilla films. And to me, it was just basically seeing an old school Godzilla film with really good CGI. So to me, it was like, yes, this is all I want. And yet everyone else was like, this movie's crap. And I was like, damn it. Like, this was an amazing Godzilla movie. This was Godzilla. Rather than, where is it? Gareth Edwards, who did the 2014 Godzilla film. That was a good movie. It was a Jaws Godzilla film. You didn't see Godzilla for 90% of the film.
It was a good movie, but it was a bad Godzilla movie.
Exactly.
That's kind of how I look at it. And I love how the movie promoted Bryan Cranston as being in the movie, because he was big. Remember, he was big coming off of Breaking Bad. Everybody loved him. He was all the rage, and he was in the movie for like 5-10 minutes max. And people were just like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have left his character in for the entire film, just simply based off of his popularity as an actor, and the movie probably would have did better. That was, once again, another bad decision on Warner Brothers' part.
Yeah,
there's a recurring theme here with Warner Brothers screwing everything up. I don't understand, I don't understand any of that. And my big question to you is, man, what does Dadpool think of Godzilla versus Kong?
Actually, if Dad is still in the chat, he might be able to tell you better than I, because I took Dad to see that and had him sit next with me, because he was the one that got me into Godzilla. And my guess is he probably liked it simply because Dad doesn't, I mean, he likes story-driven movies, but he kind of likes a simple, like, get to the point and stuff like that. So, and that's what Godzilla versus Kong was. It was straight to the point, lacked story. I mean, there was basically zero story, and you could tell they cut so much out of it. Like, I know the director was like, no, they didn't cut anything from it. And it's like, yeah, they did. If they didn't, you're a terrible director.
These directors for these WB movies always say that. Oh, they didn't cut anything out of it. No, it was That's my cut. Remember David Ayer? Oh yeah, that's my cut of Suicide Squad. Oh, that's my movie. Right. We know that's why now we keep doing release the Ayer cut, right? Because that was your movie, right? That was your movie. That was my whole problem with David Ayer from the beginning. My problem with him was that he actually acknowledged that was his movie. So if you're going to acknowledge that as being your movie and you're going to take credit for that crap, and now you're going to cry later on and say, oh no, that wasn't my movie, they meddled with my movie. Now it's hard to have sympathy for you because you've basically been lying to us the whole time. So that's kind of, my issue.
Yeah, I mean, he was also going under the impression that he was going to get a sequel after this with Gotham City Siren. So I could understand why he was trying to play.
Yeah, they're going to give you your sequel.
Play nice.
Yeah, we see how that turned out, David. And Corey wants to know, what is your favorite Godzilla movie? Well, mine is Godzilla 1985. I love that movie. I love the way that it looks. Yeah. And I also love Godzilla Final Wars.
Do you really?
Oh my God. The movie is so cheesy.
It is.
It's so off the cuff. It is so bad. But I love it. And you get all the different Godzillas from all the different eras. You even get the Godzilla from the bad Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie. I mean, I love that movie. It is so cheesy and I can watch it any day. And I also like Godzilla 2000 with the bad English dubbing, and you hear the guy Godzilla. Oh, it is so. These movies, I have to say, these movies are fantastic. It's hard not to love all these Godzilla movies. What about you? What's your favorite one, Trey?
Oh man, a lot of people will probably be like, dude, why? But I really loved the Americanized version of the Godzilla King of the Monsters. I think technically this one came out 1954, 1955. That had Raymond Burr,
with Raymond Burr. Yeah, that was good too. Yeah, and the original, and of course the original black and white. Oh my God.
Me, that, like, the story and how deep that movie was all the way back in the 50s, brilliant storytelling right there. And I always felt like they should have made a remake of that movie, having not Raymond Burr, but Steve Martin in a Godzilla film again. But the classic, love the 1954 one. I'm also a big fan of Terror of Mechagodzilla. God, I mean, the 90s was just Godzilla versus Bellante was phenomenal. I mean, I could go on all day about Godzilla. I am a true Godzilla nut. I even watched Godzilla Singular Point. I'm nutty when it comes to Godzilla.
And I gotta give it up for Dadpool right now. Story-driven productions are the only productions worth viewing.
Oh, so see, I miss.
Hello, yeah, man. I mean, I mean, come on. I mean, if it's a good story, you can get behind it, right? And Kupi Malik says, for me, it's Godzilla versus the Destroyer, which is another really good movie. And Snyder the Snyder fan, 99 wants to know, Zod, what are your thoughts on Zack Snyder praising the Batman trailer? I don't expect anything less from Zack Snyder. What? You want Zack Snyder to come out and say, oh, this sucks. Oh, I hate the cowl. Oh, I hate the suit. Oh, this Batman looks too angry. Look at Robert Pattinson's teeth. When have you known Zack Snyder to come out and be outright critical of another filmmaker's vision? When has Zack Snyder ever come out and said anything like that? No. Zack Snyder is going to be gracious till the end of time. He's going to be a wonderful gentleman. He's going to support his fellow filmmakers no matter what happens. Yeah. If Zack Snyder didn't come out and say something positive about the Batman, I would be surprised, because Matt Reeves has said positive things about Zack Snyder in the past. So when Zack Snyder, and this is another thing that's getting me. There's a lot of people, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Trey, but I've noticed a lot of people on social media using the fact that Zack Snyder had positive praise for this Batman movie, for this trailer, to give it a pass and to jump on the bandwagon now and be like, well, if Zack supports it, then it's great. We can, we're free to love it. Like, you can't form your own opinion. You have to base your viewpoint on whatever somebody else thinks. And to me, if Zack Snyder likes the trailer, that's great. If Zack Snyder is in full support of this movie with Matt Reeves, that's perfectly wonderful. I have no problem with that. But that doesn't change how I personally feel about it. And I think that Zack, I expect nothing less from Zack. Remember, Zack Snyder came out and said good things about Wonder Woman 84 too, didn't he? And we saw how Wonder Woman 84 turned out. I think, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Zack Snyder had positive things to say about James Gunn's Suicide Squad as well. So I don't know how people can use what Zack Snyder says as a metric, because you have to remember, he's a filmmaker and these are his colleagues. You don't come out and trash your colleagues. You don't come out and say, oh, it's a crappy movie, whatever. No, unless it's Justice League, which impacted Zack Snyder on a personal level.
Yeah.
I don't expect him to come out and say anything negative about anybody. He is an upstanding human being. He's a stand-up guy, and for him to come out and say something positive about the Batman, I think is a win-win. It's a great thing. And kudos to Zack for doing that. I think that's wonderful. Zack is, let me tell you something. There's a reason Zack Snyder has a reputation for being so beloved by his colleagues and everybody that he's worked with, and why nobody, unless you're Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada, has a negative word to say about Zack Snyder. Why is that? Because he's a great guy and he supports everybody.
Yeah.
He's exemplary. He's how filmmakers should be. So listen, I think it's great. I think it's great that he loves it. And I hope he really does. I hope he really does love it. I hope he's really excited, and I hope it's something that's going to be his jam, because I don't think it's going to be mine. And what do you think about that, Trey?
That's Zack for you. And if anything, it just makes you wonder, why did Warner Brothers hate him so much?
Yeah.
Other than, I'm sure
it says more about Warner Brothers than it does about Zack.
Exactly. Yeah. He's just such a great guy. And I think that's why people really listen to what he says. He
they
has
gravitate towards
for
him.
A reason. If he gives the Batman a pass, I can understand why people are like, okay, I guess I can watch it. Now, I rather you just have your own opinion, rather if you want to see it or you don't want to see it, rather than have someone that, hey, it's great that they respect Zack that much, that when he says something, it's like, okay, I can enjoy this. And it's just like, why can't you just enjoy it if you want to enjoy it? And that's nothing against Zack. That's just simply have your own opinion. If you like it, like it. If you don't, then no.
Sure, but as we've learned, Trey, having our own opinion is very, very volatile in this day and age. If you have an opinion and you disagree with certain people who feel a certain way, you're going to hear about it. Yeah. And Akuma Rev says, I love the classic Godzilla and Monster Island. It's cornier. It's cornier than my shits after Taco Bell, and classic with the sounds and the dubbed over voices can't be beat. I agree, Akuma Rev. I love corny Godzilla. Listen, you hit the nail on the head there, bro. It's exactly the way it is. How can you not love those movies? And they're so much fun too.
Yeah,
they're cheesy, but they're fun. And a lot of the older ones, they're cheaply made. They're fun. They're great. Dadpool says productions that rely heavily on FX generally miss the mark. I agree completely there too. And Batan asks, do you guys consider Wonder Woman 2017 as a part of the Snyderverse? Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. Very much so.
I know some people think it may not be simply because Warner Brothers had her change the third act, but honestly, in all fairness, I don't know exactly what
she got
has
her
planned.
vision. She got her vision in
Yeah,
Wonder
it was
Woman
still
84.
fine with
And
the
we
third
saw how that turned out. So maybe in this case, we got the better version of Wonder Woman based off of what Patty's tastes appear to be for future Wonder Woman movies. I think that we got the better of the two. I think. I don't think we suffered at all. And again, you know, Zack Snyder was a writer for Wonder Woman and he was on board. And again, they used Zack's stunt team. They had all kinds of Zack had his hands in Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman is definitely part of the Snyderverse, if you ask me. I love it.
Yeah.
And Super Bat Mom says, "Hi, Zod and Trey. Has been watching the old black and white Godzilla movies since he was a toddler. He was a weird kid, but that's what makes him unique."
Thanks,
okay,
Mom.
so I'm assuming that's your mom. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But see, you gotta love those movies because I was the same way. I grew up, I was a toddler loving those Godzilla movies, staying up late watching the Godzilla movies. You know, they'd start at like 9 o'clock at night and you'd have Godzilla versus the Smog Monster or whatever. And you would just be like, my God, this is what we've been reduced to. And, you know, can I have some more bugles? So Dad Pool says spot on, Zod. And Koopy Malik says, I agree, Zod. Zach is a gentleman and a good colleague to have. Yes, exactly. I don't think anybody should look at Zach praising the movie as anything more than he's a colleague praising another colleague and looking forward to seeing somebody else's vision on screen, which is awesome. And there's nothing wrong with that. And Justice League connects to the upcoming Flash movie. I mean, look at the suit in the Flash trailer. That was so weird. We could talk a little bit about the Flash trailer. I was underwhelmed by the Flash trailer, to tell you the truth. It didn't really do anything to me, but I still want to see it. I still want to see the movie. I'm still very, very curious, but I'm worried about it. So,
yeah, I mean, for me, it didn't make me more excited for the film, other than, you know, it's the Flash movie is a bit of a X factor for me. It could either be amazing or it's going to be absolute awful for me.
Right.
You know, and I don't have a problem with the suit because to me it looks like, other than when I saw that one blurry picture of the cow, yeah, that didn't look so great, but it's right out of the New 52 comics, which I thought that was a very cool design for Flash in the comics. I have issues right now. I have issues with the story of the Flash so far. To me, that they're using a Flashpoint storyline and it's Michael Keaton's Batman. Like, what a wasted opportunity that would have happened, according to Jay Liva. That was going to be the last film of the Snyderverse. It was going to be a comic book accurate Flashpoint film with Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Batman, with the fight between the Amazons and the Atlanteans. And this is kind of like a bastardized version that really doesn't follow that. So you have,
and we got the multiple Ezra Miller Flashes, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense either.
Yeah, if you guys watch, which I know Zod and I do, if you guys watch Mikey Sutton and Geekosity with Sil Abdul,
yes,
he's had some theories about it and some scoops. One thing I did notice that for probably the first time, and I need to ask Sil about it because I haven't yet. For the first time, I caught something that Mikey, if I'm correct, wasn't right on, which was when Andy Muschietti released that picture of the Batman suit that Michael Keaton has spray painted with the Flash design. Mikey had said, I believe he said it was for marketing. It was just an advertisement picture to say, hey, Flash and Batman are in the same movie together. And it turned out to be, it's actually a suit that one of the Barrys is wearing. So who knows what the hell's going on with this movie? I really I can't wait to watch it to finally just be able to be like, okay, this is the direction they're taking the DCEU in, you know, whether I like it or not.
yeah, I'm very worried about it too, Trey. I feel you as a DC fan. I'm worried about the movie, but I'm gonna again reserve my judgment until I see the movie, because again, there's been so much conflicting information about this Flash film that we don't know what to think. We got people telling us that Andy Muschietti went back after he saw the Snyder Cut and decided he wanted to tie it more in with the Snyderverse. But then we're hearing other things that are conflicting. And then when you see the multiple Barrys, and we know that Ray Fisher is most likely not going to be reprising his role as Cyborg in the movie, and that friendship was very important. I don't know. I'm nervous about it. I really am, but I'm not hating on it. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just going to wait and see, because it looks like a mess. That's as negative as I can be if I say it looks like a mess, because it really does look like a mess. Like,
it's a tough film to do. It really
convoluted mess. Yes.
You know, and that's one part where I will give some credit to Marvel, where they took their time to explain the multiverse.
Well, I wanna mention Marvel. I actually do want to bring up Marvel a little bit here. And Batdan, I think we answered your question. Do you think the Flash will be in the Justiceverse or the Snyderverse, or neither? We can honestly both say right now, I don't know. I mean, from what we get, it's very hard to tell.
Yeah.
The only, I mean, and I'm beginning to wonder, what was Ben Affleck's motivation for being in this movie if they're not going to do his character justice. I really feel like he would have only signed up to be in it if they were going to do his character justice.
Well, Ben sent in rewrites when he was agreed to it. He said, "This is actually what I want you to do with my character. That this is something that I believe Variety said happened." So, in terms of, is it part of the Justiceverse? I think Mikey Sutton is fully correct when he says no one is going to kind of refer back to the Justice League film. There's no reason to. Everyone hated that film.
Everyone hated the movie, and then the Snyder Cut was a global phenomenon. So right there, you have to just look at common sense and say, why would the studio coming in after this merger, the top executives say, "Oh, let's go back to a movie that nobody liked, and let's build everything off of that."
If anything, they probably won't connect it back to anything. It'll just be, here we're starting from this point of the movie and going through. And then obviously, according to Mikey Sun, you're supposedly going to see flashbacks of all the DC films, really. So Batman v Superman, Michael Keaton's 1989 Batman, maybe even Nicolas Cage Superman thing going on. Hopefully that's not a thing, but we won't know until we see it.
I don't know, and that's why I say I can't even really speculate anymore, because we've seen so much. It's like the Flash has gotten speculatory proof, because you can't really speculate on this movie anymore, because there's so much that we're just at a point where we just got to wait till the movie comes out.
Yeah,
because even that trailer was very disjointed and didn't really tell us anything. And Koopy Malik wants to know, wonder when will Zach look to adapt a popular video game into a live action movie? I don't know. Maybe he'll do something with Army of the Dead.
Actually, that's very possible, because Netflix recently signed a video game deal. I can't remember the company.
Yes, they're going to become like. You're going to become like what GameFly tried on Amazon, where they tried like a digital service where it was like a Netflix for video games, and you could click on certain games and you could play them you could play them online and play them over a server, and you know, which I think was a cool idea. It was just, and that's what they do with Xbox and that PlayStation Now and all that. So
someone already did a virtual reality game of Army of the Dead that you could play if you go to Vegas. Like, someone has like a truck, basically it's like a bus that you can stand in, and they have screens and stuff, and you can like shoot at zombies. It looks really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. And we got here, definitely not Snyderverse. Anything and everything after Justice League is canon to Justice League. Okay, well, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't really, like I said, with Flash, anything is possible. Who knows? It literally is true that anything is possible with the Flash because of all of the time travel elements and different things that are in there that are not present in a lot of other
I mean,
films.
technically, when you think about it, because I hear what Amshri is saying, that everything is canon after Justice League. Even Aquaman is technically not canon in Justice League because of Mira. Her accent is different in that film too. In Justice League, she still had a bit of an English accent. It just wasn't as heavy. And then in Aquaman, it's American. So no matter what, is anything really canon to Justice League? No one really refers back to Justice League. You know, Wonder Woman 1984 is technically a prequel if you think about it. So it could connect. Definitely can't connect to the Snyderverse, I would say. But the James Gunn Suicide Squad, they don't refer to anything that happened in Justice League. They don't refer to Steppenwolf, so that's not a thing. And then what else is there? Shazam, that's not mentioned at all, so you don't know either there. So it's
Shazam is just Shazam. Like, I don't know, but I just wanted to briefly mention Marvel, because I had been mentioning a lot on previous shows that I've done in the past and getting a lot of flack because I said that within 5 years there will be a Marvel versus DC movie. Now, I have a lot of reasons for believing that, but chiefly because James Gunn actually did approach, and there's been several articles written about this, where James Gunn approached both Marvel and DC about doing this. And lo and behold, James Gunn has directed movies for both Marvel and DC now. So he is bridging the gap between Marvel and DC by being the first director to cross both studios. But now, here's something that I don't know if it can be considered a smoking gun or not, but I'm going to give you two examples. One is at DC Fandom. As you know, you were there, I was there, Spider-Man was mentioned. That's number one. Number two, there's a new Marvel movie going to be coming out called The Eternals. And there's a scene that everyone is talking about in which Superman is literally referenced in the Eternals as though he is a real character, that he really exists in the Marvel universe. He is referenced. Superman. Okay? Why would they mention a DC character, and not just any DC character, but a popular DC character like Superman in a major Marvel film, if there's no plans to eventually merge the two and do that Marvel versus DC movie and make $1 gazillion on behalf of both studios? The fact of the matter is, you don't see DC mentioning Spider-Man in their movies. You don't see DC DC mentioning the X-Men. The fact that you're getting a legitimate Superman reference in the MCU is a sign that perhaps there's going to be some kind of thing that they're starting to brew. And I know it's small. It's just a reference. It's not like, I get it. I get, that people are, it's small, it's not really a big deal, Zod. It's just they just mentioned Superman. Maybe Superman is a comic book character in the MCU. No, that's not how it's being portrayed. It's being portrayed as though Superman is actually an existing character in the MCU.
Interesting. I'd be curious to see that scene when the externals. One thing
Eternals, I can't wait.
Yeah. One thing I've heard is a lot of people, saying externals, right? Yeah. Internals?
Eternals.
Yeah, Eternals. Thank you. God, I was like, I don't know why that slipped my mind for a second. Eternals, I've heard people have been calling it MCU's answer to Zack Snyder's Justice League. So even there, they're trying to build, think about this. Marvel is acknowledging how awesome Zack Snyder's Justice League is, but Warner Brothers is like, no, no, we're not going to continue this, but yet Marvel's even like, oh, this film is like Marvel's Zack Snyder's Justice League. So people are like, oh, really? It's an epic movie? It's building hype from a product they don't even own. But in terms of what you're saying, Zod, about eventual Marvel versus DC, I'm sure the current regime at Warner Brothers would love such a thing to happen, hence why they brought over James Gunn. To be honest with you, though, I don't see it happening, simply because I don't know why Marvel would want to tarnish their product right now. Because if you think about it, the Suicide Squad failed miserably.
I feel like this. Kevin Feige, okay, who runs Marvel, is a comic book fan.
Sure.
He loves comics. He's a comic book fanatic, right?
Yeah.
So if he really is running Marvel and has this grand plan, Marvel and DC have been crossing over in comics for decades. There's tons of books out there, Marvel versus DC. They've had so many crossovers where they've clashed, where you've got Spider-Man, and you've got Batman going up against Captain America, you got Thor going up against Wonder Woman, you got Superman versus Spider-Man. You've got all kinds of crossovers. So if Feige is really thinking about it in terms of a comic book fan, this is something he wants to do.
Yeah.
Just like any other planned arc that he may have. And I'm going to say this too. A Marvel versus DC movie would make more money than any Marvel movie or DC movie ever, because this movie is not just going to appeal to comic book fans. This movie is going to appeal to normal people who just go to movies and just like movies. And think about the kids, think about the merchandising, think about the way you can market this movie the first time Superman and Spider-Man are on screen together. I mean, listen, you're talking about a movie that has potential to be the highest grossing superhero movie of all time. And we're not even talking about if it's or the highest grossing movie in cinema of all time. And we're not even talking about if the movie is actually good or not. We're just talking about just the idea of having all of those characters together in a film would be mind-blowing for the general audience. And you have to remember, a lot of these movies, the main goal is to get butts in the seats, right? What's going to get people in the theater more? What's going to get more people in the theater than Marvel versus DC?
Though, I think the part where I struggle with it still is I just don't. I mean, technically it's like, who cares if it's a good movie at that point? But can you imagine, think about this, if Robert Pattinson's Batman, assuming he becomes the face of Batman, in a Marvel movie, like he's too dark for Marvel, right? Like they wouldn't know what to do with it. They would have to nerf him so much and make him a smiling idiot like Justice League.
Well, I'm gonna give you an example. Allegedly, they're putting Charlie Cox as Daredevil in the next Spider-Man film, right?
I did.
So if Charlie Cox is Daredevil, as dark as his Netflix TV series is, can appear as Daredevil and Matt Murdock in a Spider-Man film, which is geared more towards children than anything else, then you can figure out a way to adapt Batman into a Marvel versus DC movie. And as a matter of fact, I don't think Pattinson is going to be the DCEU Batman. I think the DCEU Batman is going to be either going to be Ben Affleck or it's going to be Michael Keaton going forward. I don't think it's going to be Robert Pattinson at all, because Matt Reeves has said many times that he's basically doing his own thing.
Yeah.
So you're not. So I don't really see how I don't think we're gonna have that conundrum at all by the time a Marvel versus DC movie rolls around. But I do think it'll be up in the air who that Batman will be. Will it be Batfleck? Will it be Pattinson? Will it be Ben Affleck? Who will it be? But I think at the end of the day, depending on who you get to direct it and And I would say that if Kevin Feige, and because mark my words, Kevin Feige will be spearheading this. Kevin Feige will be in complete control because Marvel is the money-making brand right now, right? They're the ones with all the money. They're the ones with all the power. So they're the ones that'll basically be steering the ship. But if Kevin Feige was smart, he would probably say, okay, we're going to get the Russo brothers and we're going to do this. Russo brothers, you're going to work with Zack Snyder and you guys are going to give us the greatest comic book movie ever in Marvel versus DC.
Could you imagine that though? Like this is another part where I see like this being an issue. Like if DC and Marvel, like we already saw how long Endgame was, and of course the general audience was like Endgame was getting a little too long for them. Now you're adding DC characters. How are you going to give every character its time of day and, give everyone the proper time that they need on screen and the budget for this film? I mean, how much was Endgame? I mean, Robert Downey Jr. alone took in what, $50 million or something like that? Even more probably. I don't see them spending. I mean, even at the
I almost look at it like this. I almost look at the pitch for this movie being like this. Everybody needs to take a step back. If you want to be in Marvel versus DC, you're going to have to take a step back. This movie is going to have way too many people in it for it to be about egos and for it to be about money. So they'll have to work it out somehow behind the scenes because I'm sure they're going to want Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man in this movie. I'm sure they're going to want. So it's all going to. So that's the other thing
telling
too.
Robert Downey Jr. though, hey, you can't have $50 million this time.
The timeline. But here's the thing. Here's the thing though. That movie, Marvel versus DC, has potential to make so much money that they literally can offer incentives based on how the movie does because they know that this movie has potential to be the highest grossing movie of all time. They know this, so they could say, well, if we get this much, you'll get this, you'll get this, you'll get this, you'll get this. They can do all kinds of things, and it also depends who's going to be around from Marvel and who's going to be around from DC by the time this movie rolls around, and what timeline is it going to take place in? Because I have a feeling that if they do a Marvel versus DC movie, the only way they can do it where they make it work and they do it justice, where it's going to actually take place in a timeline where Marvel and DC are already combined. They're not going to be able to do it where it's in like a Snyderverse timeline or it's in like an MCU timeline. It's going to have to be a separate timeline created specifically for this movie. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it because otherwise it's going to be too convoluted. There's going to be too much. So in other words, you do it in a timeline where Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man exists. Henry Cavill's Superman exists. Batfleck exists. You do it in that timeline and it's just specifically for that story. It's basically like a standalone comic story. And you could have the two villains be Darkseid and Thanos if you want. It just depends on what they want to do and but I mean it has potential to make so much money, and if they do it right, it's not going to do anything but bolster both brands.
Yeah,
because now you're going to get people excited again. I mean, I don't know. I just see it. I see it happening one way or the other. I just see it happening. It's just, I get this vision in my head that it's going to happen, and I don't know why I'm so convinced, but I feel like it's just a no-brainer, and Kevin Feige's wheels have got to be spinning from all the money they can make off of this movie. And I'm feeling like after this merger happens, I feel like this is something Zaslav would probably be open to too, because he's all about building franchises and making things bigger. And I just think it's one of those things that's going to happen. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely see the money potential behind that idea.
Yeah.
I just don't see how they could sit down. I don't see how they could make it work story-wise, movie-wise, and budget-wise.
They'll adapt one of the Marvel versus DC, one of the many Marvel versus DC comic storylines that already exist. That's what they'll do.
I'm sure they would do that. I just I don't know. It just seems like a weird thing that I'm just not sure if
but again, like I said, James Gunn has already pitched it. And James Gunn is the only director who has swapped between both studios. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, according to Mikey Sutton, James Gunn's, whatever he says isn't exactly held with as much weight anymore as it.
Well, I hope that's true for a lot of reasons, because I'm not even saying I'm in full support of this Marvel versus DC movie. I just think that it's inevitable. I just think it's going to happen because at some point, because there's just too much money to be made for it not to happen. It's like leaving money on the table. These are two big comic book companies that could literally like break the bank for both of them. They could literally build, it's something that if it's done right, could be one of the most successful films of all time, if not the most successful film of all time. And I don't think anybody can deny the gravitas of something like that. That would be huge. Even if as a fan, I'm not personally hyped on the actual story or the idea of them doing it. I just think that it's inevitable from a financial perspective.
Interesting.
And Console Fanboy says, "Whoa, is that a purple and black nightlight in the back?" You got a purple. You've got that purple and black. You bought the arcade 1-up Tron, didn't you? Yeah, there it is. There it is. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. That nightlight. It's beautiful. Oh my God. Console Fanboy says, "Haha, sorry, just kidding." And Black Ops says, "Hey Zod in chat, hey, what's going on, Black Ops? Oh my God, that video is hilarious. $700 for one game. You saw it already. I just posted. Okay, yeah. The arcade 1-up is putting out the home arcade version of Terminator 2.
Ooh,
and they want $700,
of course,
for the machine, which basically prices everybody out of the market, and it only has one game on the cabinet. So it's not it's not exactly a good value. You're kind of, unless the only game you ever want to play is Terminator 2, and you've got nothing better to do with $700, which I don't know. I'm yeah. No, not me. I'm out. I'm out. There's no way in the world I'd pay $700 for an arcade 1-up cabinet. There's no way. It's just, you talk about a colossal waste of money. Wow. It's a very famous meme. Yeah. Bat Dan says, "Well, I gotta go, bedtime, way past my bedtime, but I've been enjoying this stream so much. What can I say? Getting on here with Trey from the BatChannel. I mean, I've hit the big time. This is great.
No.
I'm so excited. Like, listen, Trey, I mean, this is so much fun, and you are awesome, and I'm gonna always support you guys, because you are just this is what I'm talking about friends and networking and collaborating and supporting each other. It's such a wonderful community, and it's such a wonderful place, to build on friendships. And even people, it's like, yeah, you might have your disagreements about movies or whatever, but ultimately, I mean, if you can just be friends and respect everybody's opinions, I mean, you'll be okay. And Katsuka says, "Hola, everyone." And Papa Brad's Gaming says, "T2's guns look like squirt guns." Yeah, yeah. And it's a way too small 17-inch monitor firing at point blank range. Wait a minute. They want $700 for the cabinet, and they're only giving you a 17-inch monitor and you're firing guns at point blank range. That is rip-off city. I'm going to tell you right now, I have that. Wow. Good luck. Good luck selling that T2 cabinet arcade one up. I got to tell you, good luck with that, because people are going to be just, I mean, you could have at least did like a 20, a 24-inch screen, or heck, at that point, for $700, give me a 42-inch screen. If I got to stand up real close to the cabinet with the guns. Oh, and by the way, the guns are detachable, right? So if the guns are detachable, it already doesn't have the authenticity of the original Terminator 2 cabinet. Because if you remember the Terminator 2 cabinet, the guns were attached to the machine, and you just you stand up there, and the guns don't come detached from the cabinet. So that's another problem. Wow. Wow. What a bad idea. What a bad idea. Oh my goodness. I am just too outdone. It's not that I was going to buy it anyway, but my God, at $700, I mean, when people say, what are you smoking? That is actually very appropriate for this scenario. And Dadpool says, great show, guys. I come to expect nothing less from you two. Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated, Dadpool. I'm feeling really good about all this right now, Trey, and I'm almost sad to end the show. I really am, because we are like really having a great stream right now, and it's so much fun. Okay, why don't you what do you got coming up on the BatChannel? What's happening, man?
Well, just the usual, just making good content. Sarah and I like to make fun videos every now and then. I think we're going to continue. If you guys didn't see our Batman Day celebration video, we did a drink off competition. I have this like Gotham City cocktail recipe book that has like all these Batman themed drinks. So I think we're going to kind of continue that series, because it was really fun to make. And just stuff for her and I to do together. And obviously just continuing reviewing DC projects, other things like that, and getting ready for Army of Thieves this weekend.
Oh my God, I can't wait. I'm so excited. That's going to be another great one. And that, my friends, is the real Snyderverse right now. The real Snyderverse is what Zach is doing on Netflix. So you guys got to realize this Army of the Dead universe, and the Rebel Moon that he's doing, the Star Wars movie that's not quite Star Wars, but is, I have a feeling, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I kind of think that Rebel Moon is going to be quietly be a Star Wars movie. It's going to be one of those movies where like it's Star Wars and there's little hints in there that it takes place in Star Wars somewhere, but it's not going to be enough for them to be like, it's almost like, do you know about like, okay, the TV series The Sopranos, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know that how Netflix did a series years later with Silvio, with Steven Van Zandt, the guy that played Silvio in The Sopranos, did a TV show called Lilyhammer. And Lilyhammer has Sopranos connections, because Lilyhammer, he's playing technically the same character that he played in Sopranos, but it's a different take, but it's different enough to where it can be viewed as something separate, but there's enough little hints and little clues thrown in there, subtleties, where you can connect it to The Sopranos. And I feel like this is what Zach is going to do with Rebel Moon. It's one of those movies where it's going to be his own thing. He's doing his own thing, but there's going to be subtle hints. There's going to be subtle little things here and there that you're going to see, little Easter eggs and things that are going to connect it on the sly to Star Wars. And you're going to kind of have that. And then it's going to be one of those things where years down the line, when Zack Snyder actually gets to make an official Star Wars movie,
You think that's going to happen?
They'll be at some point, yes. At some point in Zack's career, I think he will make a Star Wars movie, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But I think Rebel Moon will be like this. Will be sent. Will be put in there like a. Will be kind of like a Star Wars movie without the Star Wars name, and you'll have little things that will click with you, where fans will be debating, my God, is this Star Wars? My God, does this movie take place on Dantooine? Just saying. I mean,
possibly. I mean, who knows? I'm just excited. Zach is,
science fiction.
Netflix,
And KoozyCast is in here. He says, "Hey Trey, BatChannel, what happened to the guitar solo I sent in for the Hallelujah cover?" Hi Zade, what's up, KoozyCast?
My man Koozy. So right now with that project, we were waiting on there was quite a few people who reached out to us after our deadline happened, and we're like, hey, it's gonna take some time. Can we give it to you later? So we've been waiting on a few entries to get in, and we're piecing it together. I mean, as you can imagine, it's like a whole bunch of different videos that have different audio qualities, and me being a music guy, it's trying to tweak those a bit to make it all sound correctly, because I don't want to just throw out a project that is not great, especially this is something for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention that we're working on. So it's still in development. We're still waiting on a few people who have said they're going to join in and do some really cool stuff with us. So it's just in development. And I think, I've kind of talked to my video editor, Super Bro Corey, about when we're going to release a video. And I'm hoping for it to have meaning and, to be a proper time to release it. I think we were talking about doing it for, the 1 year anniversary of the Snyder Cut is kind of our
That's
thought.
awesome. That sounds great. Once again, more fantastic and wonderful stuff coming up from the BatChannel. You can't expect anything less. And Papa Brad had a question here for us. Who would be Batman's best fight in the Marvel universe? I go back and forth because I think I agree with him here where he says Iron Man versus Batman, but I kind of want to see, just like in the comic books, I want to see Batman go up against Captain America.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's so tough. Who would be his best fight? Because I'm biased. You can't ask the BatChannel who would be Batman's best fight. I'm just gonna be just put Batman and his doppelganger Batman against each other. That'd be a hell of a battle. Apparently we'll see that for the Flash movie of Michael Keaton versus Batfleck. I don't know, but who would be a great fight? I mean, Iron Man kind of seems like his opposite in Marvel in a way, so I could see that being a thing. Captain America would be cool. I don't know. It's always kind of weird.
KoozyCast says Moon Knight, and I think Moon Knight would be an incredible fight, because Moon Knight is essentially, is on a brutality level like Batman. So I could see Moon Knight being a really good fight. And I could also see Daredevil, now that they've brought Daredevil into the MCU. I could see, could you imagine Charlie Cox going up against Batfleck? My God.
When you think about that, though, you look at Batfleck, and I mean, it's even when people say Batfleck and you look at Pattinson or even Keaton, and you're like, Batfleck is a freaking Hulk of a Batman. I don't want anyone going up against Batfleck because he's just going to break them in half, but.
But comic book accuracy, you almost have to have Batfleck go up against the Hulk.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
And in that instance, because I know they're going to give us they would probably give us Superman versus the Hulk, but Corey brings up a good one here: Batman versus Deadpool. Can Batman find a way to kill him? Now, again, Batfleck against Ryan Reynolds. This has to happen. Listen, because now that I think about it, now that when I put it in my head, I'm not just thinking about the money anymore. Now when I put it in my head, yeah, some of these fights would be incredible to see on screen.
Though Ryan Reynolds would nail that fight scene so perfect, because at the end when Batman's about to kill Deadpool, he'd be like, Martha. And Batman would be like, that doesn't work on me anymore.
You do understand that that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah.
You just hit it. That would happen. And we really, and honestly, what more could we ask for at that point? That would be fantastic. That would be worth the price. That would be worth the price of the admission alone. Oh my God. Martha.
I would never hear the end of it if Deadpool beat Batman, though. Deadpool would be on, just like, hey, remember that time Deadpool kicked Batman's ass? Like, shut the hell up. How about this? I got the best fight for you. Batman versus the Avengers. Batman wins.
Oh my God.
Justice League Doom on him.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Kuzicast says Eternals is a Snyderish MCU movie and critics hate it. And he also says there is a Deadpool versus Batman on YouTube.
I'll have to check that out
in high quality. Yeah, we'll have to check it out. I think that's one of the Bat in the Sun videos, because they do a lot of Bat in the Sun does a lot of fight. A lot of fight videos.
I saw the Wolverine versus Wonder Woman one.
Wolverine versus Wonder Woman, and Thor versus Superman, and that kind of stuff. And you get a lot of great. Thor versus Wonder Woman would be a fantastic fight as well. And I would be interesting to see how it played out. Gods versus gods. Listen, that's what I'm talking about. They could just they don't even have to have. The best thing about a Marvel versus DC movie is it doesn't even have to be a plot. It could be like Mortal Kombat, and it's just a bunch of fights like stitched together with some dialogue in between.
That's honestly maybe a smart move for them to do first, to see how well it would work out if they did a Marvel versus DC like Injustice game, Mortal Kombat, where it's those characters and building a story off that to see how fans, react to that kind of story, if they like it, or if it's just cool that they fight.
And I also love here what Papa Brad's Gaming is saying. He says could Superman lift Thor's hammer?
I think, didn't he in the comics? I thought he did in the comics.
I think he did in the comics, but in the movie, imagine Henry Cavill's Superman going and reaching down for Thor. That scene would be epic. I mean, I don't know. I gotta say, it'd be hard not to geek out at some of these sequences that we would get in a movie like this. It would be like, and if we didn't have these fights, it would be a complete missed opportunity. I mean, from the perspective of, my God, this has potential to be the biggest movie of all time. Like I said, you could almost, a good thing is Papa Brad says here, this would be a nerd's wet dream if it ever happened. I don't know though, Brad. I think a lot of nerds would take issue with the very fact that a Marvel versus DC movie existed at all. I think that's the problem. You see, at that point, it'd be like with me with the Robert Pattinson movie, taking issue with the fact that it exists. That's the problem you would have. Oh my God. And Super Bat Mom says, Trey, were you still planning to do a remake of the ending to Wonder Woman 1984? I know some of your ideas for that and would love to see that come to life.
That's actually funny. So there was a theme I wanted to, as our channel progresses and gets bigger and we're able to do some bigger productions. One of my themes that I wanted to start doing with our reviews of movies is having a portion of that video be what would I change. And I didn't want to just tell people how I would change the movie. I wanted to show them the one part I would change in their movie. And I actually told my mom how I would slightly, I mean, I don't think this one thing could fix all of the issues with Wonder Woman 1984. I think it just would have been a very cool moment that would have helped connect it to Snyderverse stuff. in a way, even though, like I said, still plenty of issues for it. But it was a really cool idea that, yes, I would love to do it at some point. It just, you know me, you know what my biggest issue is, Zod, when I do my YouTube videos? I have such an imagination of how I want something to be and the quality that I want it to be at, that if I can't reach that, it's actually kind of similar issue that we're having with the Hallelujah project that we're working on with Allison Crow, is that I had such a vision of how I wanted that project to be, and we didn't quite get the number of people that we wanted to join in on that project. So in my mind, it was like, okay, well, now I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of things for this to get it to where I want it to be. So, I mean, if anyone is interested in joining us in the Hallelujah project, you can totally reach out to me on Twitter, on Facebook, however you want to do it. But that's part of my issue, is I have a vision of how I want something to be and the quality I want it to be at. And when it's not quite there, I'm going to take more time to get it there.
Gotta love it. Gotta love that, man. That's what it's all about. Striving, always striving for the best, and not being happy until you achieve it. That's beautiful. And Papa Brad says, so much crossover lore could be done. Every nerd in a comic book shop argues this stuff. Absolutely. And the Snyder Fan 99 says, Batfleck versus Netflix Punisher.
Yeah, man, it'd be like the accountant.
Oh my God. And we got Call Me Crazy, but I'd like to see James Bond versus Batman, both humans with gadgets. That would be an interesting. That would be an interesting fight, because that would be a battle of wits more than anything else.
I think the real question is who could get more women throughout the night.
For real. Although James Bond, they did kind of castrate James Bond, though, didn't they? Didn't they kind of pour some cold water on his womanizing recently?
Daniel Craig has come out and talked about, like, you know, this is what makes James Bond an imperfect person. And it's like, but that's James Bond. He is a bit of a womanizer. He is,
right.
You know, I mean,
right. Well, I read an article where they basically said, Sean Connery's Bond practically raped his way through the movies.
Oh my God.
And it's like, guys, calm down, get over it. What are you talking about? I mean, really? I mean, it's like, please. But like you said, the womanizing is an aspect of the character that's always existed, even in the James Bond novels.
Yeah.
I mean,
tell me if Sean Connery didn't come up to you and be like, yes, let's go to the bedroom and have a martini, that you wouldn't be like, yeah, I'll go. It's Sean Connery, man.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't understand it. It's like 187 says DC needs to get their game up first. MCU can't carry them right now. Maybe 10 years we go X-Men and Fantastic Four to build. Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but like I said, I think it's going to happen just because, more so than anything else, all the epic stuff that we've talked about notwithstanding, I think it's going to happen just because of the financial benefit. There's so much money to be made, and if they can work out contracts in a way where they can kind of get the movie made and having it not cost as much as it's going to make, they're gonna stand to make a lot of money there. And KoozyCast says here, hashtag restore the Snyderverse, and imagine Thor's axe on Superman. Not impressed. Yeah.
Impressed.
And Papa Brad's Gaming says Bond gets pussy galore, and we know that pussy galore is a James Bond character. And Integrity 101 says, I just saw the new James Bond film. I enjoyed it.
I thought it was really good.
That's cool. Yeah, I thought it was a good movie as well. I was kind of confused by Rami Malek's character, though. His character was a little weird. There wasn't a whole lot to him, to me.
That's the issue I had with that film too, is I felt like the main villain needed to be swapped. Like, he should have been like kind of the small end villain. And then, I always forget the main villain throughout, the Spectre villain. I'm totally spacing his name.
Yeah. The guy from Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards.
Yes.
I can't remember. I think his name was God, what was his name? Like Oh my God! Someone in the chat help us with this one.
Yeah, I'm totally spacing.
I'm thinking of his name and I can like see it, but I can't see it. Like I know exactly who you're talking about though, and he's a brilliant actor.
He was kind of done injustice.
He was also in Django Unchained as well.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Christoph Waltz.
Yes. Yeah. I felt like he needed to continue to be the big bad because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but in that movie, he has a part where it's like he's doing what he's been doing to James Bond throughout the entire Daniel Craig series. And it was like, okay, so he's still like owning James Bond, whatever he does. And instead he kind of took a back burner for Remy's character, who really had no reason,
had no depth. He had no depth. He was just like an ancillary character that was just kind of thrown together to be thrown together. And I agree with you. I think that the Christoph Waltz character should have been the final. It should have been the final showdown.
Yeah,
wasn't he? He was Blofeld, right?
Blofeld. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, it should have been the final. That should have been the final showdown between James Bond and Blofeld. I agree, and I think that would have made for a much better movie. They could have kept pretty much everything the way that they did it, but just have him in there and have Rami Malek kind of taking a back seat to him.
Yeah, I mean, really, they could have had him as be the first kind of villain and then have Blofeld's character take him out. You know, I mean, to me,
right? That would have been dope. Yeah, have Blofeld take him out. And then that be the real fight for James Bond further on in the film.
Yeah. But
that
otherwise,
would have been
still
amazing. But the way what we just talked about would have made the film 1,000 times better. I'm just saying. I mean, honestly, I mean, to think that wasn't something that might have been considered. I mean, my God. I mean, that's I don't know. It's amazing. And let's see here. We've got Dadpool who says, as Negan would say, it's time to shut this cancel culture shit down now. No exceptions. I agree. Cancel culture is horrible.
Agreed.
It really is. And Corey says, best James Bond. Daniel Craig for me. I don't know, man. I like James Bond, but I think my pick would be a bit controversial because I really like Timothy Dalton.
Oh,
I think
really?
Timothy Dalton was dope as James Bond.
From oh gosh, was it
The Living Daylights?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God! In 1980s, I don't know, man. I love that, and I like Sean Connery too. I like all the Bonds, but I don't know. Timothy Dalton to me, I just thought was awesome, and I liked some of Pierce Brosnan, but then like Daniel Craig kind of, rejuvenated the character, and so for me, I kind of gravitated there too. I thought Daniel Craig was good too. It's going to be interesting to see where Bond goes from here, though. That's an interesting topic. Corey says Roger Moore and Sean Connery here. What about you, Trey?
God, man, that's so tough because all of them brought something different to the table for James Bond that I kind of dug. I mean, Sean Connery is so classic that I'm like, oh man,
iconic.
Yeah.
I mean,
he in a way, he kind of was the first person that everyone was like, that's freaking James Bond.
Right.
I loved Roger Moore, and I think that part of the issue is like my parents in general, like my mom, Sean Connery, loved Sean Connery. Dad was a huge Roger Moore fan, so I had two different viewpoints of why James Bond was great. So part of me is like Sean Connery, Roger Moore. I did really like Daniel Craig, but my wife, while she loves Daniel Craig, her and her mom were like huge Pierce Brosnan fans.
Okay,
so I have a little bit
I could get that. I could see that, and I mean, let's face it, we did get the greatest James Bond game ever from the Pierce Brosnan era, which was N64's GoldenEye.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody can dispute that. I mean, to this day, GoldenEye is still dope and super fun to play, and GoldenEye is a pretty good movie too. On top of that, so so I can kind of see that. And Dadpool says Roger Moore is to James Bond as is Adam West to Batman.
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
And Integrity 101 says, can't argue with Sean Connery. A lot of Sean Connery fans here. And Damian Vincent. What's up, Damian? Good to see you, man. Says, good night, everyone. Batfleck versus Punisher happened already. It is called The Accountant. Yes, and you mentioned that. Absolutely. And Super Batmom says, Corey, Deadpool and I always debate this. Deadpool is a Roger Moore fan, and I'm a Sean Connery gal all the way. Sean is a manly man. You see? That's great. Sean is a manly man. So obviously Super Batmom doesn't think that Sean Connery raped his way through the films, which is why I sit here and say to myself, these people are crazy.
Yeah. Well, speaking
these are just movies.
Sean Connery as James Bond. Have you heard this theory that the movie The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery is a secret James Bond sequel?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I don't know. That theory always bugged me. It's kind of like the Doctor Who theory that James Bond is actually a Time Lord, and that's how they explain his constantly, his changing of faces over time, the different actors, just like how Doctor Who, changes actors, when he does his regeneration. They basically are saying that, James Bond basically has a regeneration. You just don't see it on screen. He's a Time Lord.
Yeah.
And that's how he's able to, continue to exist in different eras. So I don't know. I've always kind of looked at that Rock theory kind of the same way, but then I can kind of see how people would think that. What about you? What's your take on that?
I just learned about the theory like a week ago, and I was like, it's really, really cool, and I love the idea of it. I'm not sure I believe it, but it's also a really cool idea. So it's like it's kind of like the Jar Jar Binks theory, where it's like that's kind of crazy and out there, but it's really cool,
Oh, yeah, and it really makes sense. Like, speaking of Star Wars, since you brought up Jar Jar Binks, I was actually listening yesterday to a radio dramatized version of the Colin Trevorrow script for Star Wars Episode 9. Duel of the Fates, the original script that he had planned for Star Wars. Now, I listened to this. They fully dramatized it with music, sound effects, and they had sound alikes to do all the different characters. They cast different people for the roles. It was absolutely spectacular.
I'm gonna have to find
it. I'll send you the link for it.
Cool.
It is so good. I mean, it was an amateur audio production, but they did a wonderful job, and it made me really angry at the end because I was like, this is the movie that we should have got.
Really, they should have just.
I don't understand why they just didn't let Colin Trevorrow do what he wanted to do. What is the problem? What is the problem with these studios that just can't get their stuff together? I mean, I was like, this script was so much better than what Rise of Skywalker was, in my opinion. I'm going to say it, like you said earlier, in my opinion, because if you don't add that to everything, you get crapped on. So, in my opinion, Colin Trevorrow's script for Episode 9 of Star Wars was fantastic. And if they would have adapted that, I think the new Star Wars trilogy would have been a lot better received. I think overall it would have a lot more fans, and they wouldn't have as much. It wouldn't be getting as much pushback as it's getting now, because there were so many great things in that script. There's even a scene in the movie, and I'm going to give you a spoiler here. There's a scene where Kylo Ren enters a cave because he's trying to meet this dark side master, and he goes into a cave, like similar how Luke went into the cave in Empire Strikes Back and fought himself. Okay. Kylo Ren goes into this cave and fights Darth Vader. And it is dope. Is dope. Yeah. I mean, Kylo Ren gets his butt kicked, but it was dope. Like it was, I mean, and they did a there's a fan film online. I actually may have it. Let me, if I have it, I may play it if I have the file somewhere, because it's actually there's actually a scene where they did like a fan version where there's actually a scene where Kylo fights Darth Vader, and it's very similar as how it's depicted in the Colin Trevorrow release of the movie. Actually, just look up, when you get a chance, look up Kylo Ren versus Darth Vader fan film, and you'll find it, because it's very well professionally produced. It looks very good. It's very great, and you'll get a feel for what this fight was like in the Trevorrow version of Episode 9. And I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up because you mentioned Jar Jar Binks, and it got me thinking about Star Wars. And I really, to me, I feel like Disney should at the very least consider doing like an animated version of that script, just to give people a different take, because it really, it was really well done. All of the characters actually got a lot of great moments in it, and it felt more like a lot of people said how, The Force Awakens kind of felt like a rehash of Star Wars, like of A New Hope.
Yeah.
And this Trevorrow one kind of felt like it was a little more akin to Return of the Jedi. It had a little more. It had more of Return of the Jedi in it, and it was good. It was very well done, and like I said, I sit here wondering why they didn't go in that direction. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think speaking of radio plays, someone who really needs to do a radio play is Jeffrey Warfield, when he did that Justice League.
I talked to him. I mentioned that to him. I think that's something that he needs to do, and I think that's something that we can all, as a community, get behind. I think if Jeffrey wanted to do it, and we could cast it, and we could really, speaking of that play, let's briefly touch on that, because Justice League, if you haven't listened to Justice League Pandora Box Part 1, you're missing out.
Yeah, it's good. Especially, I don't know if you did this, Zod, but when I had Jeffrey playing his video, the Pandora's Box, I played Zack Snyder's Justice League soundtrack behind it. And there was I don't know if it was just timing of when I started the soundtrack. It worked perfectly for when he was talking about certain things. Like when he said Batman, I heard the boom, 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 the Batman theme that Tom Holkenborg did. And it was like, oh, this is cool. And that's what made me think, oh, Jeffrey needs to do this. It'd be so cool.
Yeah, I love that you did that. I love that you did that. That was probably the best way to do it. I had it on. I was just listening to it while I was doing other things, and I had, but I was totally getting a feel for what Jeffrey was going for, and by the end of it, I was blown away. And I'm like, yeah, this is great for if you're a fan of the comics. This is great if you're a fan of DC. This is great if you just like Zack Snyder's take on the characters. There's something in here for everybody. That's how good Jeffrey was with this. It was so brilliant. There was so much in it. Like, how do you, and that's why I say, as a DC fan, you guys owe it to yourself to check it out. Jeffrey was masterful, and that's why I agree with you. I think that's a project, Trey, that we should really encourage with Jeffrey, because I want to definitely get that audio play thing together, because I think we could do a fantastic job. I think we could get enough people together and push it out, and actually perform it, and put music where it's necessary, sound effects, really do it up, and there's enough people in the fan community that we could probably cast this thing right and really get this thing out there. And Trevor says, Justice League Pandora Box was great. Would love to hear an audio play. Yes. I felt like Jeffrey performing it himself was like an author reading his novel. Yeah. And now we do what graphic audio does. Yeah. We dramatize it and we make it a movie in your mind, and we totally do it up. And I think that's something as a community that we should all get together and push for. Integrity 101 says, should every film get a theatrical cut and an extended director's cut? I'd prefer every film by default be the director's cut, but if producers can't stop meddling, then give me a director's cut on Blu-ray. I think, but that seems to be the trend now. It seems to just be like we eventually get a director's cut, but it always comes out later. Like, my God, Sylvester Stallone has a director's cut of Rocky IV coming out in November. Like, a director's cut. He literally went in, recut the movie, and added scenes back in that were cut out before the movie was released. And he literally, it's a brand new cut of the movie. I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's a trailer out, an official trailer out and everything. I couldn't be more hyped because I absolutely love the Rocky films. So I'm all about it. I'm like, I cannot wait till this movie comes out. I am like, my God, man, a director's cut of Rocky IV this far down the line. I'm like, wow. I even kind of got a kick out of Francis Ford Coppola going back and editing Godfather 3 and doing his own. I didn't really think that his changes really made all that much of a difference.
It didn't.
But at the end of the day, I was like, well, at least he got a chance to do what he wanted to do there.
Yeah.
So it's like, if that's what he intended and that's what he wanted, okay. But I don't know. Godfather 3, I think, is always going to be misunderstood no matter what you do. I don't really think you can do anything now. That ship is sailed.
I mean, it's also, you have Godfather 1, which is a masterpiece in itself, and then Godfather 2 was a masterpiece all on its own.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I'm of the mind that maybe they should have stopped at Godfather 2. That's kind of like that's kind of where I sit with that. Like, because there is a Godfather 4, a novel, Godfather 4, and it wasn't finished by Mario Puzo because Mario Puzo had died before he finished it.
Okay.
But another author, I think his last name was Weinberger. He took over and wrote the rest of it. And I think for a while they were talking about doing a movie version of that with Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead.
Oh, is that what turned into a Scarface movie eventually? Because I know Leonardo's doing that. He's doing a remake of Scarface.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I just I don't know. I'm gonna have to pass on that one. Integrity 101 says, I'm expecting Rocky 4 to be significantly improved by this cut. Absolutely. I mean, I love Rocky 4 the way it is.
Yeah.
But I can't see Sylvester Stallone going back and doing anything to it if it's not going to be a vast improvement. Yeah. Sylvester Stallone isn't an idiot. He's not going to touch something that was already great and then turn around and mess it up. No, I expect nothing but the best. I actually had a chance to go back. I think it was on either Daily Motion or one of those other sites. What do you call it? What's the other one? Vimeo or Daily Motion or one of those other ones where you search for certain videos, and they actually had a director's cut / work print version of Rocky 5.
Really?
And I didn't know there was so much material cut out of Rocky 5. I had no idea. I watched this other version, and it was low quality because it wasn't like remastered, and it even had like the barcodes at the top and the bottom and all that, but it was watchable. And I was able to sit through the entire thing, and it was done, and it was broken up into parts. And I watched it, and I'm like, wow, this is actually a much improved movie. So I'm expecting this director's cut of Rocky IV to just knock everybody's socks off because, clearly, and this is where I stand on director's cuts. I always prefer the director's cuts, except in the case of the original Star Wars trilogy, because I feel like the Star Wars trilogy, George Lucas has gone back and made entirely too many revisions to those movies to the point where you don't know what his vision was or wasn't anymore, because there's so many things that he's done. He's got so many different versions. I just want the original, the despecialized editions, as they're called. I watch those. Those are the ones I watch. I don't go back. I don't watch any of that. Won't watch any more revisions of the original Star Wars trilogy. But in most cases, I think the director's cut is superior in most cases, which is why I never could understand why they don't just allow directors to do their visions right out of the gate. I've never understood, because it's always better, it's usually always for the better anyway, and it just makes the studio look stupid when they release the director's cut later down the line and everybody praises the director's cut.
Yeah, it is kind of the silly thing that I wonder money-wise, like BVS, right? Like if they would have just released the Ultimate Edition as the theatrical edition, would that film have broke $1 billion? I think it could have.
Well, it was pretty close. If they didn't didn't cut the box office early, it would have been fine. It would have crossed $1 billion. The thing was, they didn't want it to cross $1 billion.
Yeah,
because they were getting so much negative backlash from the vocal minority online that they didn't want it to cross the $1 billion mark. Because once it crosses $1 billion, you have to acknowledge that it's a massive hit, in spite of bad word of mouth from a few vocal minority basement dwellers. And that's the problem that you have. You can't, so they cut off their nose to spite their face there.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, BVS was $1 billion movie. It should have been left alone and told to do thing. Because I went and seen it. I seen BVS in the theater 7 times.
Same.
I'm not even going to lie. That was the theatrical cut. Now, once I saw the Ultimate Edition, I never went back and watched the theatrical cut again.
Agreed.
But I did see Batman v Superman in theaters 7 times.
Yeah. I went in that theater expecting to hate BVS, because I was originally not a Ben Affleck fan. When I heard Ben Affleck got the part, I was like, why wouldn't they just continue with Christian Bale? You already have a Batman that has a story behind him. You can just go with that. And so when I heard Ben Affleck was Batman, I was like, this is dumb. I don't like this. And then as soon as I saw that first picture that Zach released, that black and white photo, him next to the Batmobile, I was like, oh my God, he's doing Dark Knight Returns style Batman. I was like, okay, now I'm still like holding reservations, but I'm getting excited. And then as soon as I saw that scene where Bruce runs into the smoke of the fallen building, I was like, okay, he's Batman. I went in wanting to hate his Batman. I left the theater going, holy shit.
I left the theater. I left the theater, and I believe the original review that I wrote for Batman v Superman that I posted on Facebook after I seen it is still on Facebook, and you can still check it out to this day. The original review that I first wrote for BVS, this was the theatrical cut. I gave an 8 out of 10. So I don't buy the sentiment that if you didn't like the theatrical cut and you loved the ultimate cut. I don't buy that at all. I think you liked the theatrical cut. You always liked the theatrical cut, but you just didn't love it. But when you saw the ultimate edition, you were blown away, and you were like, okay, now we're talking. See, and this is what and this is you can address when people say things like, oh, well, it was disjointed, and it was a lot of the same criticisms Dune is getting, oh, it's disjointed, it's clunky here, it's clunky there. The reason why is because the movie was cut. The movie was truncated. We didn't get the director's vision. If we get the director's vision, we're not going to have those pacing issues. Again, you cut 40 minutes out of a movie, it makes a difference. You cut several hours out of a movie, it makes a difference. It's just the way these movies are made. When you make sacrifices, you have to know where to hold the knife. I don't understand it. I mean, Integrity 101 says Zach delivered $1 billion BVS film. WB blundered the theatrical release. Exactly. Yep. But those of us who were fans supported the theatrical release, went and kept seeing it. Again, 7 times for me, 7 times for Trey, probably 7 times or more for every other fan of that movie. Yeah. I mean, come on.
I'm still very much addicted to that movie.
I love it. I still think it's the only DC to me, my favorite DCEU movie of all of them is Man of Steel. It still is. For me, Man of Steel is the number one for me, and then it just goes Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League. Just Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah,
it actually does go in that order for me, and I just feel like that. But that's how it's supposed to go. You know, you're just kind of like, you love all of these movies, and there's a reason you love these movies, because they're depicted properly, and the filmmaker is given time to tell his story. I mean, I don't know. Super Batmom says, I have to say that filmmakers are lucky that there are movie super fans like you both and this community. I kind of have to agree with that, because yeah, you gotta have that big fan base. You gotta have that in order for these movies to succeed.
It's not even so much luck, but I mean, the real fans know who the real people are who are making the movies, if they really love that character, if they really have, if they're a fan themselves. Because when you feel that they're a fan themselves,
right,
everything translates, and comic book fans see things that the general audience doesn't see. They're still enjoying the film, but the comic book fans, like watching BVS, when you see Batman, use his grappling gun and his hands out and the lightning strikes right out of the Dark Knight Returns cover, and you're like, oh my God, I know that. Like, you fall in love with little
nods just like that, and things that are thrown in for super fans like us that we're gonna know. The average person is just gonna go see it as, it was a good movie, or it wasn't for me, or whatever. But let's be honest, the average moviegoers love Zack Snyder's take on these movies. Somebody's out there buying these Justice League Blu-rays.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It's gonna be interesting, because then Suicide Squad just come out for physical release for DVD.
Yeah, and it's not selling too well.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how
Zack Snyder's Justice League is still up there. Zack Snyder's
top
Justice League is still at the top
after when it came out over a month ago.
Yeah, it's still in the top 5. And the thing is, when you have a movie like that is resonating with people, not just super fans, but people that just like movies.
Yeah.
Then you have a hit when you just have movie fans like this is dope, this is great. I've had so many people who didn't like BVS, who weren't crazy about Man of Steel, tell me that they love Zack Snyder's Justice League. And this is what I say to them. I say, well, see what happens? The best things come to those who wait. All you had to do was go along for the journey and understand that Zack Snyder is taking these characters on a journey. He's giving you a beginning, a middle, and an end. He's taking you on a journey. Yeah. As long as you go along for the ride, you're going to eventually get what you want from these characters. I think one of the greatest things I saw on there was the DC writer, Gail Simone. She was very critical of Zack Snyder's direction on where he was taking these characters. Mm-hmm. She was always talking crap on Twitter, social media. Gail Simone, I stopped being a fan of Gail Simone because she talked so much crap about the Snyderverse.
Yeah.
But when she saw Zack Snyder's Justice League, she changed her tune. And she actually went as far as to say Zack Snyder crafted a movie where he gave me the Justice League the way I imagined seeing the Justice League as a kid. Yeah. For her to say something like that, and I was paraphrasing, but that's pretty much along the lines of what she said. For her to say something like that after she spent all that time trashing the Snyderverse and nitpicking this, nitpicking that. It told me a lot. It told me all I needed to hear, because there you go.
Yeah.
Just give the man time to tell the story. Zack Snyder is good with long form storytelling. Justice League had time to breathe, had time to tell a story, and it didn't feel like a 4 hour. It didn't feel like a 4 hour film.
It still doesn't. I watch it just about.
It goes by so quick. I watch it at least once a week.
Yeah,
to be honest with
when you
you
think about it, yeah, Integrity, you're absolutely right. If it was released in theaters, I believe it would have made $1 billion, because one, you have to think about the quality of Zack Snyder's Justice League. People were saying it was on the level, in terms of Marvel fans, it was on the level of Infinity War and Endgame. That was Justice League 1 for Zack Snyder, and he did that in 2017 before Infinity War and Endgame. He would have set the bar there, only to build up all the way to Justice League 3, right? Like, when you think about that, it's like, what a bunch of idiots, because China, I'm sure you heard recently, Zod, they had already broken the Endgame record with Zack Snyder's Justice League months ago. It passed 250 million views like so quick it wasn't even funny. It recently just doubled that, 500 million views in China. So if you imagine, okay, if this was in a theatrical release and they could actually make money off it,
I still say they should put it in theaters now. It would probably make in fact, if they want to be really, really smart, they'll put Zack Snyder's even his longer cut of Justice League,
the 5-hour one.
They'll put that in theaters, and people will go see. And not only that, you put that in theaters, and you put it in theaters in black and white.
Oh, and
you will make a mint. It'll be the biggest DCEU movie in a while, and you'll have you'll make your money off of it. But I don't foresee that happening until after the merger. I think after the merger we will see a theatrical release on some level, and it'll probably be a longer version of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't that the silly part? Is Zack tried to get that, Justice League in the theaters before HBO Max. He said, yeah, I'm trying to get it for you guys to at least have a little quick release in the theaters for you to go see it, and rather than this prize thing that you had to donate to America, which is great and everything, don't get me wrong, but there were some people in Texas and LA and I think in New York who were allowed to watch it in theaters, but everywhere else in the US, no one was allowed to see it in theaters the way I would have preferred it. I literally bought a big ass TV and a surround sound system simply so I could enjoy Zack Snyder's Justice League the way it deserved,
the way it's meant to be seen. And that's what I say. I sit there, I'm like, dude, if you've got a decent setup in your home, you're not missing anything. And one of the ways that I also watched it was I watched it in virtual reality. In a movie theater through a movie theater app, and I was able to watch it, and it had that big IMAX screen, and you kind of get that feel at home regardless, because it really is a theatrical presentation. I recommend everybody who misses the cinema or can't get to the cinema due to what's going on nowadays, try out virtual reality. You might really enjoy it, and you will get a similar experience. It's not gonna replace the theatrical experience, but it's definitely going to give you that feel. It's going to give you that like a synthetic version of being in the movie theater, because you can always take your headset off, get up and go to the bathroom or whatever. But I mean, when you put it on and you try watching a movie straight way through it, you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna have that theatrical experience. And Integrity 101 says, I would have seen Zack Snyder's Justice League probably 10 times in theaters.
Yeah, I mean, the part that sucks, because remember when Zach was saying Tom Hulkenborg even wrote a 10-minute intermission piece to play during that time. That would have been cool to see as well. But in a way, the fact that Warner Brothers didn't let Zach have a theatrical release just told you they were hoping this thing would fail even more, because the fact that Zach was able to go over to Netflix, which I'm not going to lie to you guys, I work for a theater advertising agency where we advertise in the theaters. Okay. I know for a fact that they were just hoping for more content of films coming in. And the fact that, and for the theaters allowing Netflix movies into the theaters, theater chains were against that because Netflix was the first big streaming service. They didn't like, they were wanting to like shun Netflix for creating any films that they were trying to release in the theaters. So the fact that Army of the Dead got a theatrical release just for a weekend was a big deal. And the fact that Zach got that done and it was the biggest Netflix theatrical release ever, think about what would have happened if they would have released Zack Snyder's Justice League in theaters
worldwide. We're talking about you, and then people try to tell us, oh, it's not personal. It's not personal between the studio and Zack Snyder. Oh, it's not really. Look at all the money that Warner Brothers is leaving on the table because they just love Zack Snyder so much, right? It's not personal. And it all boils down to the fact that they never wanted this movie to ever see the light of day. Can you imagine this movie, Zack Snyder's Justice League, after seeing it and after hearing that it was vapor, that we were chasing vapor, that it wasn't a real movie, that it didn't exist, after hearing all these things for years, being told it was never going to happen, and then to finally get to see it, and you see how great of a movie it was. Yeah. What does that say about Warner Brothers as a studio? What does that tell you about the kind of people that we're dealing with here? They're not very bright. That's what it's telling you. They're not the smartest people. So when you hear that these people are still running things at Warner Brothers, it's kind of hard to get excited for anything else that they come out with, because they're so short-sighted and they don't care about what people want. They don't care about their fan base. They just want to be done with the Snyderverse because they're salty that they had to release the movie in the first place. It's that simple. It all boils down to the fact that we basically proved that they were wrong and we were right. Zack Snyder was right and they were wrong. And you have that proof when you compare the Snyder Cut to Justice League. I mean, and Corey points out something great here. Aside from suck at Warner Brothers, he also says we would know the numbers then, the true numbers. Yeah, we're never going to know the numbers. That's the thing. I love that there's all these hit pieces and articles coming out. Dune tops the Snyder Cut. How? How do you know that? Did Warner Brothers put out the Snyder Cut numbers? No. Did Warner Brothers put out the Dune numbers? No. So anybody could just say, oh yeah, Dune did better than the Snyder Cut.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also the question is, I know Samba TV is it's a third party group that's doing the numbers here, but we don't know how accurate their numbers are. But more importantly, are they just pulling from HBO Max? Because Zack Snyder's Justice League was on multiple different streaming
all around the world.
Ready,
all around the world. I mean, you had some countries where you had to buy the movie or rent the movie on Google Play.
Yeah.
You had, I believe there's a company in Canada, Crave.
Yes.
Where they didn't have HBO Max, and you had to either rent it or buy it through Crave. And here's the thing. It was the biggest, most successful film in Crave history, in the existence of the entire platform.
Yeah.
And that's like the end all be all for Canada for getting on-demand movies. Crave. Yeah. And it was their biggest hit ever.
And it shut down many different streaming platforms when it was first released. So you have to ask yourself, okay, how accurate are your numbers? Like where exactly are you pulling from? Are you just pulling from the US HBO Max numbers? Are you pulling
No, they're
everywhere?
pulling from their anus. That's what they're pulling from. They're basically saying, oh, don't listen to this. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad topples Zack Snyder's Justice League. Really? Oh yeah? Who's buying? Who's buying that movie? Who's buying that movie on physical media? I don't see anybody rushing out to their local Best Buy to get a steelbook of James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I think about a lot of stuff when it comes to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I just want to say that this steelbook for Zack Snyder's Justice League is one of the most beautiful releases ever. I mean, it's got the mother box on the back. I love this movie. I don't understand how anybody could sit here and try to tell me that there's not a demand for more of these movies. There's not a demand for Zack Snyder's 5-part arc.
Yeah.
Give me a break. To deny the existence of the movie is another thing. They should have to we should as fans like this, we should all do a class action suit against Warner Brothers for lying to us for the last however many years, trying to tell us that the movie didn't exist. Each and every one of us would get $18 from Warner Brothers because there's so many of us. We'd get like $18 from a class action suit, but I think we would win.
$18 if they just restore the.
Yeah, exactly, right. Keep the $18. We won't take the money. Just restore the Snyderverse because you've proven that it existed and it was a complete success. Snyder, and Snyder Fan 99 puts this out. The Snyder Cut doesn't exist. Remember that? Oh, I remember it well. I remember being interviewed by a guy for a website called The Ringer. He interviewed me, Chris Wong Swenson. He interviewed Fiona Zhang, and I think he interviewed a couple other people. And one of the questions he said was, "Why are you fighting so hard for something that doesn't exist? What do you want? What do you want to happen? Do you want them to actually bring Snyder back to make this movie, or is this something?" And I had to argue with him. I had to tell him straight up, the movie does exist.
Yeah.
I believe the movie exists. I believe the movie is done. There was always a huge debate about, visual effects and everything. That was the big debate with everybody. Oh, it's going to cost $70 million. Oh, it's going to cost $40 million to finish the visual effects for the movie, and that's what's keeping the movie from being released. Oh, it's going to take $40 million, 40. No. The movie was done enough at that point to where the cost of the visual effects were negligible when it came to the actual release of the movie. You could get that. You could get that from Zack Snyder himself, that it doesn't matter at that point. It's not about the money. It was never about the money with Warner Brothers. What it was about with Warner Brothers was ego. It's about they didn't want this movie ever to be released. That's why they denied it. That's why they fought so hard against it. That's why there were so many hit pieces. That's why there was so much, pushback and so many arguments about how much VFX would cost for this movie, because they did not want the movie to ever be released. They knew it existed. They knew it was done. They knew back in 2017 that there was a Snyder Cut that they could finish up and release if they wanted to. It's not, and that's where it all comes down to, about lying and being dishonest about everything. And that's what Warner Brothers does. They make their living being liars and not leveling with their consumers. If you're going to lie to your customers, how do you expect them to trust you moving forward? Which is why I find it so funny whenever they put out a trailer for a new movie and everybody jumps on the bandwagon and forgives them all the time. Oh, you got to support this Pattinson movie. But why? They didn't support Ben Affleck. They didn't support the awesome script that the Batman versus Deathstroke movie that he wants to do that was also supposed to be called The Batman. We didn't get that movie, so why should we be super excited for what Walter Hamada wants to do here? Why should we be excited for this when they couldn't finish what they started over here? It's like they lie about everything, but you're just supposed to forgive them and move on because they put out a new product. That's the mentality of a lot of people. You know, it's really sad. And Lucas Ironside says, "What's up, Zod and Trey? What's up, Lucas? Good to see you." Integrity 101 says, "Remember, lots of people still aren't aware of Zack Snyder's Justice League, so it's best that the public has a couple years to digest the film. But Justice League 2 is kind of like the biggest cult film of all time. Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 is inevitable."
I love Integrity's optimism.
I love it.
Like, it's not even a question. It's happening.
I believe it too, because you don't have a movie that's this big. You don't have something that is this huge on so many levels.
Yeah.
And then you don't follow it up. You don't do anything. And Corey says they lied about the cut's existence. They lie about the numbers. Can't trust them for shit. And that's 100% the truth. They don't lie about they don't tell the truth about anything. But you're supposed to believe in every project that they put out because you need to support other filmmakers. And it's like, listen, I think they're screwing over other filmmakers too. I think they screwed over Dune. I don't think Dune is what the director intended. I think Dune is just what it is. It was a good movie, but it's just not Dune, especially when we hear that the director's cut is 6 hours. How do you justify that? How do you say that that's his vision when his director's cut is 6 hours? 5 years later, people still discuss BVS. Has James Gunn's Suicide Squad been out 5 months yet? I never hear anyone talking about it. Yeah, that's what me and Trey mentioned earlier, that nobody's really talking about that right now. And Damian Vincent says, yes, sue Warner Brothers. And Integrity 101 says, everyone with a brain that followed the situation knew Zack Snyder's Justice League existed in 2017. These scoopers that said it didn't exist are morons. Exactly. And on that note, Trey, I want to thank you for being here, man. This has been an incredible show. You are awesome. Bro, we got to do this again, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me know, dude. It's always been a Zod, you know I absolutely love you, man, and that's why I have you on my show, because I appreciate what you say. Even though we don't agree 100% of the time, you and I tend to agree on a lot. I think
we do, man. I mean, it's like, look, I love that, and I love the fact that we can disagree about some stuff, and it doesn't impact how we see each other individually at all. And that's a model for how it should be. You should not hate somebody or have personal vendetta against somebody just because they disagree with you about Robert Pattinson's Batman. It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. It's so crazy. I'm just like, wow.
There is a deep love for
it is amazing. And I don't understand it. And Integrity 101 says disagreeing is more fun. I agree, which is why I like to bring different people on late night Q&A with ZodWriter so that I can get different perspectives. And this has been episode 30. And next week for episode 31, I'm going to have a YouTuber who I'm really excited to be talking to, Lorena Creel. She's really awesome. I'm a big fan of hers. She has a lot of controversial opinions herself, a lot of different things that she brings up and sees things in a much different way. She absolutely hates cancel culture and all that stuff too. So I'm super excited to be talking to her. She's got a lot of opinions when it comes to DC and Marvel. So it should be a fun Q&A next week. So you're definitely going to want to tune in for that. But Trey, again, man, thank you so much. This has been awesome. And we're gonna definitely do this again. I want to say thank you to the chat. You guys have been awesome. It's been a fun chat. It's been a lively chat. We've had so many people here tonight. I'm telling you, the Bat Channel brings it out. When you have Trey from the Bat Channel, you know you've made it. Everybody loves it. And Integrity 101 finishes everything up and says, see you guys. Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 is inevitable. And with that, I will say good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.